Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media Summit. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today, but before we jump into our content, I have some basic information to cover with you all. Now let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console, and we're going to start with the questions window. If you haven't already said hi, there is a whole giant awesome community of people out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Also keep in mind, if you have any tech issues today, a browser refresh is probably going to fix just about anything, but if those tech gremlins are clinging on, no problem. Just throw a comment in the questions section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's summit, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over live chat, we also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentation. And if we do not get to your question during the webinar, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us today will be following up with you after we wrap. All right, next up, there are going to be lots of cool aha brain light up moments on the summit today. And if you want to share those with your community, we love that. We've made it nice and easy. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's summit will automatically be added to your post. And our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection of solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go and explore. And if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout the summit today. Now, I will tell you a little bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be in attendance during the live webinar in order to qualify to win, and we will follow up with all winners after we wrap the summit today. Now, all of our winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, you can find the full T's and C's in that Handouts tab. Again, just click on the Handouts tab, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all of your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much, we have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. In today's summit, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. The expert speakers and teams will be reviewing all the questions asked after the webinar, which means even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. And if you are a lucky winner here today and you'd like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we will get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have all of you here live with us at the summit today, and we want to keep that good feeling going. So let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter, LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. And if you're looking for more awesome resources and content right after we wrap the summit today, make sure you subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in that Handouts tab, and you will be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar as well. Both you and your coworker could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend, because it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link back in that Handouts tab and fill out the application. The Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you can choose to join in, like surveys, test running new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, chat with great people, and learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply or send the link to a decision maker in your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my all-time favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need all in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. Okay, I have one more exciting resource that I have to tell you all about today. That is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. This is going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and again, completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in the handouts tab as well. Okay, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited and ready to dive in, so let's get going. All right, well, hi, hello, welcome again to the Actual Tech Media's Enterprise IT Virtual Summit. Now, today we are talking about enhancing your public, private, and hybrid cloud security posture. And I want to start things out by saying a giant thank you to all of you out there for joining us, because we have an incredible summit lined up for all of you. Some of the most innovative and leading companies in the industry. You are going to be hearing today from experts at Rubrik, Gigamon, Zerto, Access Security, and TierPoint. And each one of those sessions is full of innovative solutions, hot trends, and creative strategies, all here in one place, because there is so much to talk about when we think about the tools that are going to enhance and empower our security programs and strategies for all of those various cloud environments that you are all building out there right now. Because as we know, the cloud is getting foggier, and everything, even those edge environments, are being more and more cloud-like. Data is scattered throughout all of this and across the globe. I mean, this could really be a total nightmare when it comes to security planning, or, and I'm going to put on my Pollyanna goggles for a second, it is such a cool, creative, and complex puzzle that we all get to work through. Do you like that reframe? We're going to go towards positivity. So let's stick with that today. We're going to reframe and focus on getting the tools that we need, because that's a big part of finding that line, tipping that balance between feeling overwhelmed and feeling excited. It's having those right solutions for you and your organization. And that's what makes days like today, conversations like this one, so very important. We're all going to come together. We're going to expand our information, our understanding, and we will stay in touch with these innovations and evolutions as they are happening. So with that in mind, let's get the day rolling today. I'm going to introduce myself one more time. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here at Actual Tech Media, and my friends and fellow moderators, Scott Becker and Keith Ward, will be joining us throughout the day on live chat. All right, before we move into our keynote though, I do have some prizes that I want to go over. Now, today on the summit, and again, you do need to be here, live, present, active, here, alert, awake, some variation of that at the summit in order to win. Really, what we care about is here. If you're not posting, that doesn't impact your chances to win, but it does impact the engagement of the event. So keep posting those highs, hellos, keep posting those questions. We want those. Okay, so the prizes available for you today on the summit. You could win one of 2 Microsoft Surface Laptop 5s, one of 3 Apple HomePods, one of 3 Kindle Scribes, and we will be giving away a $300 Amazon gift card, and we're going to do that every 30 minutes. So stay tuned for that. Ross says, alert and awake. Come on. Too early for you, Ross? All right. I'll take alert and awake off the standards for winning a prize. But hopefully the information you're going to get today is going to wake you right up if you're still feeling a bit foggy, especially for those of you joining us from the Pacific Coast. I know it's a bit early for all of you out there. Reminder that the full terms and conditions link is in your handouts tab, so go check that out along with all the other cool resources waiting for you there if you'd like a little bit more info to go along with our sessions today. All right, well, let's kick things off today. And really, our keynote speaker needs no introduction. And that, of course, is Ned in the Cloud, Ned Bellavance, Pluralsight author and MVP. Ned, I know you always have some incredible presentations, and this is no exception. So I am going to step back and hand things off to you. Take it away, Ned.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Ned Bellavance, nedinthecloud.com, and today I wanted to talk to you about the current crop of cloud security solution categories. There's a lot of new acronyms and buzzwords out there, and firms like Gartner and Forrester seem like they're creating new categories just to have something to write about. Let's try to separate the buzzwords from the buzzworthy and figure out what's the real deal with cloud security. The idea of security in IT is not exactly new, and the cloud has been around for over 15 years at this point. So why are we suddenly seeing a proliferation of new terminology around cloud security? What's driving the change? I'd like to highlight 4 key drivers that are pushing the need for new cloud security solutions. While the cloud has been around long enough to get its driver's license, actual adoption of the cloud across major enterprises has been moving at a snail's pace. That's not a knock on enterprises, it's just a fact. Enterprises are slow to adopt new technologies, and the cloud is no exception. But that's changing, and we are finally reaching a point where cloud adoption is prevalent in all but the most conservative of organizations. Adoption of cloud could mean deploying traditional applications in IaaS or using cloud-native technologies and processes like containers and orchestration, or it could mean using SaaS applications like Microsoft 365 or Salesforce. All of these are examples of cloud adoption, and all of them have security implications. Traditional security products were never intended to handle a complex landscape of cloud services that are constantly changing and evolving. So, new solutions are needed to address the security concerns of cloud adoption. Along with adopting cloud services and technologies, organizations are increasingly changing their processes to be more agile and dynamic with a focus on automation. This is a natural evolution of the DevOps movement, and it's a good thing. But it also means that security needs to be integrated into the process, and that's not always easy. Security has traditionally been a gatekeeper, the department of no, and many solutions relied on manual processes and approval towards the end of the lifecycle. The idea of integrating security into the cloud-native workflow is a relatively new concept. So, new solutions are needed that can adapt to cloud-native processes and pipelines. The regulatory landscape has also been changing, in a large part due to the rise in cybercrime. Governing bodies want to know that companies have taken the proper steps to harden their security posture and that customer data is being handled properly. GDPR and other regulations have both privacy and security implications, and organizations need to be able to demonstrate compliance. At the same time, the SEC is looking to crack down on reporting requirements when a company is breached. And we're talking about days, not months now. This is a tall order for any organization, and it's not something that can be done with traditional security solutions. So new solutions are needed to help organizations meet the regulatory requirements of today and tomorrow. Finally, if you thought getting into a couple public clouds introduced sprawl, just wait until you start working with the edge. Millions of devices, geographically dispersed, difficult to service, and often running on limited power. The edge is a new frontier for IT, and it's going to require new solutions to secure it. The edge is also going to be a major driver of data growth, and that data needs to be secured as well. Suffice to say, the current crop of security point solutions are not going to cut it in the new world of edge computing, which has led to a whole slew of new initialisms and acronyms to define new security solutions. Let's take a look at some of the more popular ones and see if we can figure out what the heck they mean. A cloud access security broker is a solution that sits between the end user and the cloud service. It's a proxy that can inspect traffic and enforce security policies. It can also provide visibility into the cloud services being used by an organization. Because SaaS usage is so prevalent and outside of traditional security tooling, a CASB provides a central location for you to control access, report on usage, and apply policies. That's going to be a critical feature of many of these solutions: centralization of security controls and visibility, especially visibility. You can't secure what you can't see. Assuming you're mixing in some IaaS and PaaS with your SaaS, you might want to look into a Cloud Infrastructure Entitlements Management Solution, or CIEM, not to be confused with this SIEM, which is a SIM. This is a solution that is focused on the permissions and access controls of your cloud services. It's going to be looking at things like IAM policies, account permissions, and other configuration settings that have to do with identity, both human and machine. You think of it as a CASB for people managing your cloud services and the machine accounts that are accessing them. Next up, we have Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM. This is a solution that is focused on the configuration of cloud services at the IaaS and PaaS level, but not as much on identity and permissions. It's going to be looking at things like your AWS S3 buckets, your Azure VNets and virtual machines, and your Kubernetes clusters. When you think about CSPM, think about IaaS for the most part. Can a CSPM solution also look at SaaS products? Sure, but that's not its primary focus. A Cloud Workload Protection Platform, or CWPP, is a solution that is focused on protecting the workloads running in the cloud. Now, how is that different from a CSPM? Well, we do have some overlap here as well. The CWPP is there to perform vulnerability scanning, malware detection, and possibly even configuration management issues. It should be able to function across the various public cloud platforms and on premises. The assumption is that your organization is running a decent number of in-house developed applications that need to be vetted, scanned, and remediated. If you're not developing your own applications, you probably don't need a CWPP. A further extension of the CWPP, and one that is completely focused on cloud-native deployments, is a CNAPP, or Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. I mean, it is right there in the name. This is a solution that is focused on protecting cloud-native applications. It's going to be looking at things like containers, serverless functions, and microservices. It's going to be looking at the code, the dependencies, and the infrastructure that the application is running on. If your organization is doing internal application development and wants to practice DevSecOps, then a CNAPP is probably what you're looking for. This is a truly dizzying hodgepodge of initialisms that all start with the letter C. How the heck do you even decide where to start? Well, the answer lies in what you are trying to protect and knowing your environment. Before you even try to assess these categories or the tools within them, you need to be aware of your current environment, processes, and security posture. That all starts with a security assessment, which you can run yourself or have a third party conduct for you. This is a discovery process meant to bring to light all the assets, documented and otherwise, that you're responsible for protecting. The next step is to know what you actually need to protect and how it must be protected. Infinite security is available with an infinite budget and infinite time, but I'm guessing you don't have either of those. Know what policies, rules, and regulations govern your organization and your company's business strategy and priorities. Once you have a completed assessment and you know what you need to protect, now you can determine your current security posture against those requirements and identify gaps. The gaps are where a solution like a CASB, CNAPP, or CWPP can help you. But you need to know what you're trying to protect before you can determine what solution you actually need. The cloud security landscape is quickly evolving, and the terms used by vendors and analysts can be incredibly confusing. Knowledge is your secret weapon, and a solid understanding of your environment and your requirements will help you navigate the cloud security landscape. I hope this video has helped you understand some of this terminology and how it might apply to your organization. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I can be found on LinkedIn. Thanks everyone for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the event.
I love that start, Ned. Thank you so much. What a cool concept, looking at what is buzzwords versus buzzworthy. And I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with. What is actually new and exciting, and what's just a term for term's sake. So that was a really cool way to start out our day. And I think we're going to see a lot of buzzworthy things coming our way today. So hopefully that's a great foundation for all of you as we dig in and explore. Now, before we get started on our very first first session, I do want to point out that I've got a poll question up for you. Think of this as your test run. We're seeing if you're awake today. So we have a question here wondering about your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company. So we're here today talking about cloud security. And when you think about that, are you thinking there's an urgent need, or is this a little bit of further out planning? There's no judgment here. We're just curious where you're at. We want to make sure we're hitting you with the right information at the right time. So let us know what you've kind of got on the radar here. All right, well, I'm going to move things right along. So last chance to click on that poll here, and then we are going to get started, because that's right, it is time to kick off the summit. And in even better news, we get to start things out today with the Rubrik crew. Great start to the day, right? I am so excited to introduce you all to our very first presenter, and that is Vincent Piazza, Cloud and SaaS Product GTM at Rubrik. Vincent, thank you so much for being here to kick off our summit today. I can't wait to hear what you've got in store for us. So I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away, Vincent.
Thank you, Jess. Everyone can hear me? I just wanted to, spend a little bit of time today, and we really appreciate everyone joining the session, telling you a little bit about Rubrik from a background perspective. And then I'll tell you a little bit about how Rubrik is expanding and driving additional peace of mind in the cloud and in SaaS kind of landscape as it relates to data security. So just to give you a quick amount of background, Rubrik was founded in 2014, really focused on modernizing the data protection landscape in the enterprise data center. So our focus was initially making the actual aspect of managing backups in an enterprise data center easier to scale up, and making the UI for that, as well as the concept of making the backups not only essentially more efficient, but also enhancing the security and data protection around the backup infrastructure. So while we were living in the world of hardware at that time, our real differentiation was our software. Essentially, our backups, once they landed in Rubrik, were uncompromisable with native immutability. Our file system is natively immutable. It's append only. It cannot be broken. And then the second concept was making those backups, once they landed in Rubrik, completely undiscoverable. We did that with a logical air gap. So we had those two software differentiations that made us highly differentiated in the space, especially in about 2017, when this concept of ransomware starts to grow and our customers are more and more affected by that. We continued to focus on taking those two core software tenets, in that we knew our customers would be able to recover with Rubrik 100% of the time. We tried to apply those two software tenets to more areas of our customers' environments, particularly, as you can imagine, that allowed us to expand into the cloud, into the hyperscaler workloads that we'd be protecting, and also SaaS workloads like 365. So as we drive and continue to add more peace of mind from an aspect of recovery, now our customers are more focused on, or are becoming more focused on, data security in production, in cloud and SaaS, where everyone is encouraging our customers to build more and drive more and consume more data, especially on the front end in the business, right, where users are developing their own applications. We're seeing that more data becomes susceptible in a production environment. So Rubrik wants to take that same peace of mind that we offer and apply it and expand our scope into the production area, outside of just limiting ourselves to the backup. And that's why earlier this month, or last month actually, we announced acquiring the leader in data security and data security posture management, Laminar. So that's what we're going to be focusing around today. But again, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on Rubrik's history and how we arrived here, and how our history in that area really informed our decision to go forward in this area. So, we talk a lot about the concept of assume breach and assume exfiltration. And we're going to talk about how that relates to the cloud. So as you can see here, the threat landscape in the cloud is continuing to expand. But that also is relative to the amount of data and workloads that are growing in the cloud themselves, right? Hyperscaler data year over year is growing about a 60% clip. SaaS data is growing about a 200% year over year clip. And we're seeing the threat adversaries gaining notice to that as well, right? 70% of malicious attacks are growing year over year in the public cloud. And we actually, 100% of these are occurring from a compromised privileged access credential. So while the cloud and the hyperscalers remain incredibly secure, and obviously the SaaS applications as well, being accessible from the internet, the way in for threat adversaries and bad guys has remained to be and will continue to be this concept of privileged or global access credentials, where they can access and move laterally throughout the cloud environment and exfiltrate data. So that's been the area that we saw as kind of the problem statement for a lot of the CISOs that we were dealing with. And we talk a lot about this concept of defense in depth, right? But and adding all these layers to make it more and more difficult for kind of bad guys. If they look at your house and you have all these different layers of security, you have the fence, you have the cameras, you have the alarm system, they may not think it's worth it. But Rubrik has always been that insurance policy, that last line of defense at the point of data. We did that in the data center and we did that in the cloud. But still, we're seeing, as we talked about on the previous slides, bad guys are still getting in. They're still penetrating these areas. They're using, on the right, as you can see here, this concept of privileged access credentials. And we're seeing 120% increase in exfiltration risk, right? They typically, in a ransomware event, they may not always run a double extortion campaign to pull data out of the environment. That is increasing more, 120% year over year. Exfiltration is the biggest risk for organizations today, in that the threat adversaries are targeting data. They know that's the biggest thing that's going to disrupt your business and coerce you to pay the ransom and to kind of comply with what they're asking for. So how do you ensure that sensitive data in your organization is where it's supposed to be and encrypted appropriately, despite having all these layers of defense, and also knowing that using a platform like Rubrik, you will be able to recover and get your business back up online. But how do you ensure at each level, at the consumption level and at the storage level, that your data is organized appropriately to mitigate your risk of having a breach? So like we talked about, Rubrik has over 5,000 customers. We manage a tremendous amount of data for our customers in our current backup landscape. And so our Rubrik Zero Labs group actually looked into this data to inform our decision of what area we wanted to better service our customers. In doing that, we looked at 28 exabytes of data. It's a lot. And we found that in that landscape, about 1 in 38 of files at a large enterprise or a medium-sized enterprise contain sensitive data. So the landscape is pretty significant at scale for an organization to manage their sensitive data landscape. Then this is just in the backups that we protect. So that expands and compounds more and more in the cloud and in SaaS. Each account or subscription that you could manage has these different layers and points of vulnerability that may be susceptible to an organization. And that amplifies, of course, as you progress to multiple accounts, multiple subscriptions, multiple regions. All of this amplifies in an organization. And in order for them to make sure, and again, if you have a multi-cloud structure where you're managing multiple hyperscalers, how do you know, essentially, is your data essentially organized appropriately at each level of the cloud infrastructure that you have? And that's here, I'm going to jump through. And that's where we see the question. What we worked with most CISOs is that 90% of the CISOs that we interviewed as part of this, positioning to go into Laminar was focused on the concept of they had issues with visibility. CISOs, while they were monitoring and enforcing infrastructure and cloud configuration, they had a difficult time understanding the actual deployment of data in production. They didn't have an idea of how to inventory everything that was being used across the cloud, as well in SaaS applications like Snowflake, Google Workplace, 365, that end users were consuming. Were there standards of data security being enforced at each level of the organization? They had a difficult time gaining that visibility. And then in the worst case scenario, that makes it very difficult for an organization to understand and to report back to leadership. If I did have someone in the environment and there was an incident, what exactly was impacted? Was my sensitive data organized and encrypted appropriately, or was it susceptible? And in a world of likely assume breach and assume exfiltration, did I have an incident in my environment, or did I have a breach? Do I have to contact, the SEC with these new regulations to make sure that my organization was not fully breached? And again, we actually work with Deloitte that in these worst case scenarios, we uncovered that about each record that could be exfiltrated out of a system in a data breach could be about $180 per record. So at scale, in an environment where tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of records could be exposed, this becomes a C-level priority, making sure that your sensitive data at scale across each level of the consumption of your organization is organized and encrypted appropriately. So that's when Laminar comes in, essentially allowing you to, you're seeing in each enterprise data source in the hyperscaler, in SaaS end user and business applications, and in your data center to autonomously inventory your entire environment and the assets inside your data, to score and posture that data from a sensitive standpoint. What PII do I have, et cetera? And also understand at the user level who has access to this data. And again, what's really key about this is Laminar allows you to see at the file level who has access to this data at its most granular point, and understand from a DDR, data detection and response standpoint, if data is being exfiltrated or egressed out of my cloud environment and pulled out of the system. And then also ensuring that you could roll up to your configuration and to your actual machine level. And all of this happens in Laminar continuously and autonomously. Laminar is agentless, it's fully serverless, it deploys against your data in production without moving any data out of prod to give you this insight from a preparedness standpoint to ensure that I know, and a posturing standpoint, that my users are configured appropriately and they have the appropriate access controls in place at the most granular point in terms of the files that they can see and interact with. And I know that the sensitive data that I have is organized and encrypted appropriately, but also in Rubrik's core competency of recovery and forensics to ensure that our customers can get back up online and mitigate the impacts in a worst case scenario breach event. You can use Laminar to understand the breadth and depth of a potential breach or a potential incident. Understanding again, was I breached? Did I have an incident? And that's really key for us. And again, something that 90% of CISOs claim to have that issue with. So just to wrap up again, the real benefits of the Laminar and Rubrik partnership, now that they are a part of us, is discovering all of your data and inventorying all of the assets in your organization automatically, deploying no new infrastructure and no new servers, minimizing the blast radius of a potential worst case scenario, detecting breaches in real time with data detection and response and threat alerts for users doing malicious behavior inside of my environment at the file level, taking things out when they shouldn't be, enforcing over 200 policies with our best-in-class classification engine, with the ability to actually configure your own custom policies and define what is sensitive and what is not, and relay that back to the rest of your SAC, your SIM, your SOAR, or your labeling and classification system in your SaaS platforms. And again, Rubrik's core competency, the peace of mind knowing that you will be able to recover at scale and bring yourself back up online. That additional peace of mind that we offer and have since 2014, this just kind of adds to what we're able to drive for our customers. And again, like I talked about, Rubrik has over 6,000 customers currently in every industry. And the one we really like to focus on is the middle court portion here. We're the data protection and data security platform of choice for a lot of the security players in the market today, which we view as a big validation to our cause. And like we talked about, Rubrik is offering every component of the data recovery and cyber recovery stack, essentially ensuring that we run a zero trust architecture, that your data, once it lands in Rubrik, is fully protected. And anything that we have insight into, you can have that same peace of mind and certainty that it's organized appropriately in preparedness for a worst case scenario. We give you insights from our Rubrik Zero Labs organization, which is staying on top of the trends and the tactics and techniques used by the cyber threats in the environment today. And we also have a 24/7 around-the-clock ransomware response team that has been engaged in over 200 worst case ransomware events, and they have 100% recovery rate, round the clock service to ensure that our customers will bring you back up online. And Rubrik really puts our money where our mouth is. We offer a $10 million ransomware warranty that if you weren't able to recover with Rubrik, if you were following our best practices, we would actually give you, $10 million. We've never paid it, but it is something that we, like I said, really put our money where our mouth is to give you that additional peace of mind from a preparedness standpoint, and as well, from that peace of mind standpoint. So, Jess, I appreciate it, and that's kind of all I had right now.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vincent. Thank you so much. I'm going to move over to a poll question that we have for all of you. And we're wondering about is what additional information you would like to get about the Rubrik solution. So obviously, Vincent just gave us a lot of great information, and there is lots more to dig into. So this is a great way to sort of hit the easy button, make your life a little bit easier. Just click on that poll right there, and Rubrik will send you exactly what you need and only what you need. And then you can get started on this journey a little bit, and wherever you're at and sort of researching and reading a bit more, you'll have the right resources right there in your inbox. So make sure you click on that poll. While you're doing that, we are going to go into some of these questions here because we have some great questions coming in. And Vincent, I want to say just an awesome way to kick off the summit. Thank you so much for that. Really exciting announcement as well with that new partnership.
Yes, thank you very much. We're very excited here at Rubrik.
Yeah, I bet. We did get, this question comes in a lot about sort of what makes any sort of solution kind of stand out. And I'm wondering, because you've given us sort of especially at that wrap there, you were giving us a few of those kinds of major highlights of this partnership. But could you give us an idea of what is the key, unique, or reason that you think somebody would really consider pursuing Rubrik, and especially now with this partnership or acquisition, I should say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, our CEO, Bipul Sinha, really talks a lot about the data protection market being focused on, typically for years and years, on this highly efficient and, kind of making the SLA process for standing up your backups at scale easier. But and a lot of large organizations, we're seeing the CISO and the CIO collaborate around this idea of data security, right? Essentially guaranteeing that, the backups and the at scale are part of the CISO's mandate to ensure that the recovery process, whether it's a tabletop exercise or something else that they have in terms of preparedness, is part of the CISO's kind of line of sight. And so what our goal is to expand that same peace of mind that we offer with our guaranteed recovery capabilities into production, like I talked about. A lot of the times, if you think about it as business users might be developing presentations or Excel files that contain, or dashboards in an analytics pipeline that contain sensitive data. So this is kind of outside the scope. It's a secondary copy of what a backup would capture. So Laminar allows us with this, new partnership and acquisition to expand our line of sight into the end user business application, so that we can also ensure for our customers that, yes, your backups are secure. Yes, we'll make sure that you're able to recover and bring yourself back up online as with the minimized RPOs and RTOs that Rubrik's core competency offers, and we guarantee that. But also we can help you ensure that at the end user and at the consumption level, your data security practices and mandates are being carried out, so that if something does go wrong, and you have that level of certainty that everything is organized as it should be, and you have no vulnerabilities on the front end as well.
Yeah, and we did get a couple of questions early on kind of about ransomware with Rubrik, because obviously that's top of mind. And you kind of hit on that right at the end there as well. And especially around, Rubrik has that call line that if somebody is hit, that and what's the thing you say, you stay on the line until you tell them to get off?
Yeah, exactly. So the ransomware response team is part of our subscription. So that is another area. If your organization is thinking about this and thinking about a new data security and data protection platform, one of Rubrik's core differentiations, aside from the fact that we have recovered 100% of our customers that have dealt with this, right? Which we believe is our biggest differentiation. It's that software, those core software tenets that we talked about at the beginning. The other side of that is that we're really focused on making these kind of worst case scenarios as manageable as possible for our customers. And part of that is we established the ransomware response team a couple of years ago. They're tried and true veterans of this space. It's part of your subscription. It's not an additional cost. They work with your, incident response team. If you have someone on retainer, they allow you to use the forensic tools that Rubrik offers at scale to help you bring yourself back up online. It's a white glove service. And then like you mentioned, Jess, yes, they get engaged. If you contact Rubrik and you use any of the words that might set off the alarms here, they are engaged and available to you from beginning until you tell them to stand down.
I like that. Just emotionally, that's so comforting to know that you'd actually have to say, get out now, I'm done, instead of that they're with you until the end. Question here, how does this differ from a CSPM?
Yeah, exactly. So the CSPM providers, do have some capabilities available for data security. But I think what's really important to keep in mind, and I think I want to also say as well, Rubrik is a very, we are a customer of one of the leading CSPM providers. We definitely don't underscore or try to replace CSPMs at all for their core competency. This is more about the kind of add-on features that they would have for a data security platform. The CSPMs are limited in essence to the hyperscaler, right? They can only give you the line of sight at best into the assets that they're helping you configure and protect appropriately, which would be the big three of AWS, Azure, and GCP, right? Laminar allows you to get what we talked about a lot at the beginning of the call, which is the concept of the business applications, Snowflake, Snowflake, BigQuery, 365, Google Workspace, the end user consumption. And then also as part of our partnership, Laminar is going to expand that capability into the world of on-prem. Rubrik has been working on-prem since 2014, and we're going to work together to integrate that. So the Laminar line of sight is going to constantly expand. So CSPM's definitely a best practice. Don't want to but again, from a differentiation standpoint, Laminar is incredibly granular, and also the line of sight is wider than what a CSPM would be able to provide.
And we're getting close to the end of our time here, Vincent, but on that note and looking at line of sight, we did have some questions coming in around how things might change now with Laminar. And so, one question was sort of, hey, I'm an existing customer. Can I expect any big changes here? And another question that I think relates here is, am I going to have, can I still get a single pane of glass view when it comes to the UI now that you've got Laminar and Rubrik, or is that all kind of still in that one beautiful dashboard you guys have?
Yes, great question. So Rubrik, actually, we've won awards for our UI, so it's good to hear our customers actually like them. Yeah. So, So I'll answer the first part of the question. So if you are an existing Rubrik customer, if you leverage our Enterprise Edition, there is a component of sensitive data discovery against the backup. Laminar is highly differentiated from that because it's against prod, right? And it expands way further than what the backups protect. So from an integration standpoint, the first thing we want to do is actually expose Laminar to what Rubrik protects today, particularly our RCV, Rubrik Cloud Vault, which includes our unstructured NAS data protection. It includes our SaaS data protection, our archive tier, and our primary backup tier. We're going to point Laminar at that on the back end initially. It does exist as a separate pane of glass, but that is all obviously going to be consolidated into the Rubrik Security Cloud in short order to give you that same single view. So really the breadth that Laminar is able to cover that's what we're focused on doing initially from an integration standpoint. And then secondly, we're going to expand to essentially integrate it into the Rubrik Security Cloud and make it all consolidated for you. But our focus is data because we believe it'll benefit the customers initially. But yeah, I think we're probably about a year out until it being in the Rubrik Security Cloud. Conservatively, I mean, things could move faster. But like I talked about, because we made this acquisition and established this partnership, we really want to focus on giving our customers more peace of mind in more places, and then bring it into the one pane of glass. So That's about as detailed as I can get, but that's, I think, yeah.
That's perfect. And that's about as much detail as we have time for. Vincent, thank you so much for this incredible presentation. Before you run away, though, for anyone out there that wants to jump in, get started with Rubric, or, and I'll add a follow-up, an existing customer that has questions about this acquisition, in either one of those cases, what would you recommend as that next step?
Yes, absolutely. You can contact your local Rubric account team, or you can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me and shoot me a note. Vincent Piazza is my name spelled here. Happy to connect you downstream if you're interested in learning more about Rubric.
Amazing. Vincent, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the session.
Well, we definitely will. We've got lots of great info coming your way, so stay tuned. Keep those poll responses coming in. Keep those questions coming in. I know we didn't get to all of them. We will make sure those questions get to Rubric, so you will get some answers back. Stay tuned for that. While we are moving along here, I'll remind you all to head on over to the Handouts tab. Be sure you click on the Rubric handout. You can actually get a slide deck covering just about everything that we just sort of went through. Lots of great information about Rubric and a wonderful follow-up to what we just chatted about with Vincent, especially if you're somebody that needs to kind of bring some of this information back to your team, or you just want that little memory jog for yourself. So click on that handout, download that slide deck, make sure you've got that saved for later. It's also, if you're counting along at home, time for a prize giveaway. So we're going to kick things off with a $300 Amazon gift card. Our first lucky winner here, live, present, alert, enthusiastic with us today is Jose Burson of Utah. Jose Burson of Utah, congratulations. You have won a $300 Amazon gift card. We will be in touch about claiming that prize after we wrap up the webinar. And I want to remind you all that there are still lots more chances to win a prize. Plus, we have that best question gift card from each session. So every time you ask a question, you're entered to win. We're reviewing all of the questions after we wrap. So even if we don't get to your question live in our Q&A time, there is still a chance that you will hear about that later. So stay tuned for that one. All right. Well, as I said, lots more excitement. Oh, I just saw Russell teased it. Russell just posted, looking forward to Gigamon today. And here we are. The time is now, Russell. We are ready to go. I am so excited to introduce you all to our next presenter in today's virtual summit. As you can see, we are in for a treat because up next, we will be chatting with Bassam Khan, VP of Product and Technical Marketing Engineering at Gigamon. Bassam, thank you so much for being here with us today, or being back with us here today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I know you've got some great info lined up, so the platform is all yours.
Great. Thank you, Jess. Hello, everybody. I am going to talk about cloudiness in the cloud. Let's dive right in because we do have a lot of good material. And I wanted to say that one of the reasons why I wanted to do a slightly updated presentation is because of some very exciting thing that's happened within the past 24 hours. I'm going to keep everybody hanging on the line for that. Big news from Gigamon, so I will come back to that. First, we're going to look at why the cloud today is foggy. And when we say foggy, we're talking from a visibility perspective. It's hard to get access to communications that's happening within the cloud. Once it crosses a firewall, then we can kind of do some level of inspection for security purposes, for monitoring, troubleshooting, APM, and so on. But when it stays within an environment, particularly lateral visibility, it tends to be quite foggy, and I'll explain why. Gigamon obviously has a solution for this, and this is the space that we've been operating in for quite a while now. So by providing not only visibility into the communications, which means network packets, raw packets, and so on, but also visibility into metadata about the traffic well beyond NetFlow. So we offer over 7,000 different attributes that our customers are able to integrate into their observability tool, into their SIM tools, and so on. So that's the general topic today. The reason cloud is foggy is because there is no single cloud, as we all know it. It's always about multi-cloud. 100% of our customers have a cloud-first strategy, or at least very close to 100%. 100% of them have a preferred cloud, but at the end of the day, they end up in a multi-cloud situation, on-prem private clouds, public clouds, multi-clouds, and so on, through acquisitions, through developer preferences for one platform over another. And also keep in mind, within each of these platforms, there are container technologies that are very different, orchestration, automation technologies that vary quite a bit across these platforms. And that's why our customers end up in a complex environment. And when you have multiple clouds, the traffic access mechanism really, really varies. The tools that the platforms offer to monitor really varies. Melt, you're going to see the word melt quite a bit. Melt stands for metrics, events, logs, and traces. What that is basically is the ingestion telemetry for the typical tool, for a SIM, for an observability tool like a Dynatrace, like a New Relic, like a Datadog, and so on. And those can be quite limited. And I'm going to dive pretty deep into why that's limited and what that means to our customers. And then, of course, a lot of traffic is encrypted. So that makes it even trickier. In a nutshell, Gigamon offers what we call the deep observability pipeline. This is the ability to access traffic no matter what the environment is. If some of the icons are in the bottom, that's a limited set. There's quite a bit of more type of spaces where applications are running. When you, again, multiply in the Kubernetes environment, so GKE in Google is very different than AKS, than EKS in AWS, AKS in Azure, and so on. Tanzu and all of that on-prem. We worry about the access mechanism. So you have one environment to deal with for all access. Once we've accessed, some tools want the raw packets, we'll broker the packets. Some tools may need to see decrypted traffic, so we'll also perform decryption functionality. There's a number of enrichments. So decryption, remember, it's not the end, it's a means to an end. The end goal being inspection, but then as soon as you decrypt traffic, on-premises traffic, cloud traffic, you end up with a high level of responsibility from a compliance perspective, from a privacy perspective. It's a whole set of functionality we offer to make sure that you're able to mask out PII data. You're able to make sure that you're doing conditional decryption. So if I don't trust this IP address, this host has acted weirdly, let's start decrypting that specific traffic. So there's a lot of capabilities. There's also optimization. So typically we find 60-70% of the traffic coming into the tools tend to be not relevant for that specific tool. So if you can free up 50% of irrelevant traffic, improve the signal to noise ratio, you end up doubling the capacity of that tool. So again, very, very powerful capability. It's sending different types of telemetry to different tools. That's what we do at Gigamon. We are the telemetry company. We're the pipeline company. We don't provide analytics. We work with our partners. We don't provide security blocking. We work with our security partners. So that's the key thing with Gigamon, is that we open up your environment to avoid blind spots, because without Gigamon, there are some quite a bit of challenges around getting that level of visibility. And let me jump into that a little bit. This is very important because network telemetry still is the ground truth. Logs don't provide the level of visibility that's needed. So I do get access to network traffic on all of these platforms. So there's VPC mirroring, there's in AWS, there is packet mirroring in Google. Azure still doesn't have anything they keep announcing, but they recommend a product like Gigamon for traffic access. There's NSXT. There's many different mechanisms, but those mechanisms tend to be somewhat limited in the sense that you can have one destination. In the sense that we end up sending more. I'm just going to build this whole thing up. You end up sending more traffic than needs to go out. You end up getting, if there's a multiple VPCs talking back and forth. There's the backup server, let's say a container node that's a backup node. You end up getting duplicate packets quite a bit. You end up getting additional noise that needs to be removed from the signal that you want to send to the actual tools. And so that's where the traffic management, being able to broker the traffic in the right place, that functionality today is missing. If you get a load balancer, for anybody in the audience that's done any kind of load balancing type of work, deployed in a production environment, you're going to realize how expensive things can get super quickly. And this are all for single cloud. And then when you kind of multiply that across multi-cloud, when you multiply that across lateral visibility, traffic that's not crossing a firewall, that we don't have visibility into, that's a blind spot that threat actors tend to operate in. And so there's a number of challenges from a security monitoring troubleshooting perspective with the current platform. And that's where Gigamon comes in. Let me go ahead and build this out as well. That's where Gigamon comes in. So we support any tool stacks. It doesn't matter what the platform is. Your developers, your DevOps teams, your cloud architects, whoever, or even network engineers, network operations teams, they need to just worry about how Gigamon's what we call UCT, Universal Cloud Tap, gets deployed through either our management tool or using native orchestration automation techniques. And we kind of typically get built into the golden images. So as soon as a VM pops up, as soon as a container pops up, a node, a pod, Gigamon's automatically deployed, and then we worry about the traffic. We have something called ATS, automatic target selection, that detects new VMs popping up, new nodes popping up, containers popping up. So what that does is it allows Gigamon to acquire all of the traffic without our customers needing to worry about that. And it allows developers to go run fast. This is a very cliche saying by now, but still have the security teams and the centralized operations team, the other teams, be able to monitor the traffic for security purposes, for vulnerability purposes, for troubleshooting purposes, not just at a log level, but much, much deeper than that. And the data is optimized through a number, there are over a dozen different Gigamon functionalities, what we call GigaSmart, that will optimize the traffic. So that's all cool stuff. That everything I've said so far is about packets. Number 4 item here is about extracting out intelligence from those packets. Why do we do that? We do that because there are a whole universe of tools out there that cannot ingest packets. These are the SIMs. These are the observability tools, the APM tools. And there are dozens of these tools that every organization depends on, particularly the DevOps teams and the application owners. So what we've done about a couple of years ago, this is really cutting edge technology, is we extract over 7,000 different metadata attributes from the traffic and then send it over to the tools as necessary. And so it allows these tools to get the context at a network level without having to ingest packets. It's a super powerful capability. In the past 2 years, by the way, this has become the #1 deployed optional module at Gigamon. Historically, that was deduplication of packets. That was our #1 optional module. Now, for the past year and a half, it's been our what we call application intelligence. And one fabric manager that helps manage all of this, as I mentioned, or you can use a native automation orchestration. Let me go ahead and build this out as well. So in summary, native tools are awesome if you're going to live in that single platform from a management, monitoring, security, all of these perspective, but that's usually not the case. Usually customers tend to be multi-platform, and having tools that are siloed can cause issues when it comes time for security, when it comes time for troubleshooting. It can get pretty complicated pretty quickly. Now, these other tools, these observability tools that I talked about, they ingest melt. With Gigamon, you get a much, much deeper perspective that these tools are able to see. And again, by the way, not just for managed hosts, but for unmanaged hosts as well. So you don't need to install a Datadog agent or Dynatrace agent, New Relic agent. And without this agent, you're still able to get the visibility. Last part is logs are vulnerable. This is a little more for security audience, security people in the audience today. As you know, logs can be manipulated. That's one of the first things people do at threat actors when they come in. They will try to cover their footprint before they do their activities. And logs, there are multiple techniques for manipulating log files, turning down logging levels, deleting logs. There's just a lot of different capabilities. We believe that network traffic is the ground truth. You cannot hide in network traffic, network communications. And that really is what Gigamon brings out. Now, let me, so this is the area where I had other slides, and I'm a little bit more technical than my previous presenter. By the way, Martin and my team was supposed to present, and he was feeling unwell, so he asked me to step in. I tend to be more technical, so I was hoping to share my desktop, show you the product, show you Dynatrace, show you New Relic, all of these things. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to share. But so let me talk about what we just launched. 24 hours ago, yesterday. So we launched a capability. Let me actually kind of build up to it the way Martin and my team had, who's going to present, built this up. So what if you could get visibility into communications within containers, within nodes, within pods, within VMs? Again, traffic that is not crossing a firewall, traffic that is not being extracted out. This is lateral traffic, and that's a really rich area for threat actors to operate in. It's also a rich area for developers who potentially can run fast and make mistakes. And I said potentially with air quotes, which you can't see, because developers tend to run fast, tend to set up a console without the right privilege, with over privileging that console, let's say. And what if you could access the traffic and do it from a minimally computational fashion for both decryption as well as access to the traffic, and not just east-west traffic, not just north-south, but east-west, we're talking lateral traffic there, and be able to get access to the decrypted traffic without having to worry about key management, and be able to support any version of TLS out there with perfect forward secrecy for the people in military, including MTLS. It doesn't matter what kind of protocol is being used out there. Now, this sounds like crazy talk. It sounds too good to be true from when we talk to our customers. By the way, I've had over 150 probably one-on-one customer discussions about this over the past year that we've been building this. This is what we launched, and this is what we call pre-cryption. It's a game changer that addresses, we believe, the biggest blind spot in any organization today, which is lateral virtual traffic, and particularly virtual traffic that is encrypted. It's all customers I've talked to, they don't inspect it because it's simply not possible to do prior to this technology. I'm going to skip over the previous slide and jump right into it. I kind of spoke to all the other points. So pre-cryption is a way to access traffic before it's encrypted. That's why we call it pre-encryption, pre-cryption. What does that mean? How does that work? Well, a developer has an application and they want to send some traffic, some data over to, let's say, another application, or a client to a server to a client, or host to host, doesn't really matter. Before the developer sends that traffic, they say, oh, this is Bassam's medical record or whatever, I'm going to encrypt it. So the way that traffic is encrypted is through an encryption library, typically is used as OpenSSL. So rather than picking up the traffic on the wire after it's been encrypted, pre-encryption comes in through kernel level services. For those of you that are more technical here, we use eBPF, extended Berkeley packet filtering technology. That's a kernel level service that's out there with every modern version of Linux out there. So we will reprogram eBPF, the kernel, to say, hey, if anyone's calling that library, please send us a copy of that record. So then we intercept that, and then in a oops, we don't have that here. In a secure way, we will send that over to the Gigamon platform for its decryption, masking everything else that needs to happen. I'm sorry, not decryption. Decryption is being done here for its filtering, masking, all of the other functionality that needs to happen before we send it out. Why is this important? This is important because it addresses a really key area, which is getting access to encrypted traffic. So in a nutshell, we have the ability now, our customers have the ability now to eliminate the biggest blind spot in organizations today, which is, again, encrypted traffic that's moving laterally in the virtual world, whether it's on-prem, in Tanzu, on Nutanix, or it's going out to public clouds, any of the public clouds, any of the Kubernetes environment. It's again, one executable that runs across the board, that all you have to worry about is making sure that that gets built into the images, and boom, you get visibility. So as I mentioned, we are strongly partnered with AWS and a number of deep observability companies, because we don't do the analytics. That's where we rely on our partners. And so this is, again, a cutting edge technology, we believe, that's going to have a big impact out there. So to close up, cloud is cloudy. It is foggy. It is hard to get access to the traffic, but it is super important to get access to traffic, if not for security purposes, definitely for debugging purposes as well. When something breaks, and we're working with a very large airliner right now, one of the largest ones out there, they've had an application rolled out for a while. Over the past 6 months, it's been acting erratically. And all of their observability tools and the teams have looked at it, escalated. They cannot figure out why it's acting weird. They brought in Gigamon, and what we found is that it's not what's running within the host, it's what's being rejected, the CRC checksum errors outside the host. So basically the host sees everything that's happening the agent sees everything that's happening in the host. Agent is not able to see traffic that's dropping at the gate. So it's not even making it its way through. There's a weird networking issue. So that's an example of a troubleshooting from the outside in that we provide to our observability partners. So very, very cool technology, adds a whole nother layer of intelligence, troubleshooting security capability that's simply not possible. So with that, Jess, I am done with my slides, with Martin's slides.
Yeah, perfect. Bassam, thank you for stepping in at the last minute. I talked to Martin earlier in the week, and he was not sounding great. So I appreciate you being here to talk to us. I mean, he always sounds great, but voice-wise.
He is English, and he sounds much better than I do. But we'll have to deal with me.
Well, we appreciate that. And what an exciting opportunity to kind of get the hot off the presses news. We did get some questions coming in that I want to get into. Before we do that, I'm just going to put up the poll here. And what we're wondering is, what additional information would you like to get about the Gigamon solution? So this is, again, the easy button. You're making your future self grateful by just clicking now and saying, this is what I need. This is what's going to help me follow up. And then Gigamon will make sure that you get exactly that information. So click on the poll right now while we're digging into some questions here. And I do want to remind everyone to keep the questions rolling in, because we're going to get to as many as we can. But we're going to make sure that any questions we don't get to are answered either over live chat today or an email follow-up. So I appreciate all the energy and enthusiasm you guys are bringing today. We've got lots of questions here, Bassam. I want to start with this one here because we did get a couple of questions about integrations, people who have legacy systems. So making sure that Gigamon's going to continue to work with anything that they have in existence. And then also, if you had any suggestions about SIM and how that might connect with Gigamon or not.
I'm sorry, what was the last part?
Sorry, the SIMs.
Oh, SIMs. Right. Okay. Great question. So let me start off with the second part first, which is Gigamon's already pre-integrated with Splunk, with QRadar, Logarithm, with most of the SIMs out there. And how are we pre-integrated? Why we are pre-integrated because we provide network context that those 7,000 attributes are a subset of the 7,000 attributes that I talked about before, and be able to send it over to these tools. And these tools think they're getting log files, they're getting syslog, or some of the observability tools, they think that they're getting events. So we kind of reformat our output into the language that these tools can understand those 7,000 attributes, again, with whether it's over Ceph, over IPFix, over Kafka bus, on and on and on. There's many different integration points into these tools. So I wish I could have demoed. I would have shown you Splunk, where the data is coming in, and you're getting network level visibility. What that means is we can show you that, hey, there is port spoofing going on, non-standard use of ports. There is applications that are dropping packets at the outside of where the host is. So it's not inside the host. Once the traffic gets in, it's this packet drops outside. We could have shown you cryptocurrency mining. So here's Bitcoin mining that somebody installed in a AWS environment. These are all network traffic driven intelligence that we will send over to our partners. That really is the power of our metadata capability.
Paul asked a question I have to ask. Along with cloud fog, will Gigamon help with cloud bloat?
Great question. So what's the number one complaint, Jess, that we hear from when we talk to our customers that have moved workloads or built new workloads in the cloud? I'll answer for you. It's cost. It's
of course, always.
Exactly. It's cost. It's also in not just cost of the application and traffic and CPU and all of that. It's also cost of retooling. And I need to worry about kind of rebuilding my environment, my reporting, and so on. Great question. And yes, we do help with cloud bloat in a number of ways. The main way, and I'd love to talk to you deeper about this. I would love to set up a meeting and dive deeper into that. I can actually show you. I wish I could have shown you today. By a number of ways, by making your network transmission, network costs along these public clouds much like a fraction of the price in multiple ways. We have spreadsheets that our customers use to see how much savings, and they've actually validated that spreadsheets are correct. So that's one. The second part is the tools themselves become much more efficient. So if you have a SIM, you're able to send only the information that's needed. So it's very targeted. For a DNS, let's say, rather than getting a high volume syslogs, for all activities, you can say, show me activities that are out of the norm, show me activities that are related to DNS sort of hijacking in some ways. So very targeted. So we help with the tools, we help with the traffic. And the third area is the applications themselves. Because the applications now have much better visibility, or we provide much better visibility into application from a networking perspective, troubleshooting the applications, writing, it just becomes much faster. It's not quite bloat, but I'm taking the question about bloat in a more broader way, that, hey, it takes a lot of effort to maintain, monitor, troubleshoot these applications. We bring that capability, not just to the operations teams, but the app owners. And that's why people love this capability. One of the things, if I may, Jess, I would really recommend on the people in the survey, if you haven't already clicked, please try to get a demo. All of the stuff I'm saying really sounds too good to be true, but we can show you a demo in 10 minutes. And then usually people stay much longer than that. So it's a little bit of a
that's actually perfect, Bassam, because I was going to ask you what you recommend is the first step to getting started with Gigamon. And so demo is a great way to go, hey?
Usually for the audience, demo is the best way to go. I mean, we're more than happy to walk you through the technology, talk about it, but sometimes it's just so much easier to see. And again, we'll show you the demo in your own tool: Datadog, Dynatrace, New Relic, Sumo Logic, Splunk, Curator, Live Action. It's up to you, whatever tools. We're the telemetry that makes those tools 10x more powerful.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bassam, because I appreciate your presentation on its own. I appreciate you stepping in last minute to help out a sick coworker, and someone. Obviously, we're big fans of Martin, so please pass that on to him. But we're so happy to have you here with us today, and thank you for this exciting announcement. We've learned a ton, and I hope we'll get to chat with you about this a little more again soon.
Great. Thank you for hosting this, Jess.
And to everyone out there who's clicking on the poll, keep those answers coming in, keep those questions coming into the chat, and make sure you head over to the handouts tab. You want to get the handout from Gigamon. It's a little bit of an ebook on deep observability, looking into, without Gigamon, what might be those unseen threats that are going to be hanging out in your organization. So obviously this is top of mind for a lot of us. What we don't know, we don't know. So head on over, make sure you've got that handout, save that, and read that later. And I will also, let's give away a prize. And this time, let's do 2 prizes. We're going to do a $300 Amazon gift card, and let's give away those 3 Apple HomePods. So we have a $300 Amazon gift card. Oh, and one last reminder that you do need to be here live and present at the summit. The $300 gift card going to Ramsey Okuma of Nevada. And then a HomePod going to Michael Lynn of Pennsylvania, Brandon Butler of Texas, and Jan Agay of New Jersey. That was Michael Lynn of Pennsylvania, Brandon Butler of Texas, and Jan Agay of New Jersey. You have all won HomePods coming your way. Stay tuned for that. All right. Well, keep the questions coming in. Keep the poll questions coming in, or poll answers, I should say, coming in. And in the meantime, we are going to move things right along because, as you can see, we are definitely keeping the good times going. We've got the Zerto crew here with us. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to our next presenter in today's virtual summit, and that is Martin Oderinde, Product Marketing Manager at Zerto. Martin, thank you so much for being here with us today. Always great to talk to the Zerto crew. Can't wait to hear what's going on with you folks. So I'm going to hand things over to you, and I'll chat with you shortly for some Q&A at the end. Take it away, Martin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Martin Oderinde, Product Marketing Manager at Zerto. Over the next couple of minutes, I'll be discussing the cloud landscape, challenges that we're seeing when it comes to security, sharing some best practices, and explaining how Zerto can help you navigate with our one-to-many approach when it comes to cloud. Now, in the spirit of football season just starting, let's take a play out of the sports playbook. Much like when teams hone their defense to protect their end zones, so too is it crucial for the business to have a solid defense when it comes to protecting their cloud environments. Before I get started, I want to ask you to think about how are you defending your cloud infrastructure from potential threats today? Unfortunately for me, I'm a Texans fan, so there'll probably be a lot of upset Sunday nights as my team is still trying to figure out how to score, and there's all I can go on and on. But what I want to do now is kind of talk about cloud for a minute. So when we talk to customers such as yourself, these were some of the things that were top of mind. The cloud really is continuing to grow, and the amount of data is growing exponentially along with it is mind-boggling. The ability to navigate that cloud complexity is paramount for businesses today. And with all that data, it's bringing unwanted attention. And as we've seen time and time again, that ransomware truly is on the rise. However, it's important to realize that ransomware is only a small part of the larger picture related to disruptions. From cyber attacks, natural disaster, and the human area, oftentimes when these disruptions occurs, there's significant data loss and it could be costly. And businesses are juggling with all these various aspects of their businesses, all while trying to stay in compliance with the relevant regulations. Now, briefly skimmed over the challenges. I want to shift the focus to going over the different models. And this isn't a case of which one is better. I'm just going to go over some key general characteristics, but also mention some of the concerns that are associated with each model. Now, we have public, the most typical type of cloud infrastructure, your AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, offering that pay-as-you-go pricing, reducing, infrastructure costs. However, some of the concerns that are usually associated with that is data privacy and meeting those industry-specific compliance requirements. Next up, we have private, and that name speaks for itself. Cloud environment that's dedicated to that single organizations typically offers full control over their resources and configuration, and they usually leverage by organizations with some of the most stringent SLAs. However, when it comes to this, cost and resource management are often some of the challenges that private cloud is faced with. And lastly, this is hybrid cloud. Combining the elements of to think of HPE Green, like offering that greater flexibility to scale the resources up and down and reinforce that data redundancy. However, some challenges that come along with this is, the monitoring of your data across the environments can be a little bit complex. So there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to cloud, and it's not a one size fits all. So there's a lot of more nuances as we all know. But whether you're leveraging public, private, hybrid cloud environments, it's important to recognize that while cloud service providers manage certain aspects, ultimately the responsibility of security and compliance lies with the customer. Vendors may operate the IT infrastructure and control things like flexibility, but your organization is really responsible for identity and access, security and encryption, and disaster recovery planning. The principle underlines the essence of the cloud shared responsibility model. This framework delineates the responsibilities between the cloud service providers and customers, ensuring that both parties are on the same page regarding accountability. And this collaborative approach ensures that the cloud environment remains secure and compliant. And to truly elevate your cloud security playbook, it's imperative that you grasp that shared responsibility. So when your business really, because it's important because your business's vigilance is the linchpin to a strong defense. And really, for the strong defense is needed with these new surge of regulations and compliance requirements. Over the past couple of years, we've seen and witnessed a significant uptick in stringencies and regulations across various industries, from healthcare with HIPAA, from finance and payments with PCI, and of course the global reaching GDPR. Businesses now are navigating a web of compliance obligations, and the stakes really going to be any higher. Was where we're seeing some of the most stringent SLAs that accompanies these regulations. But ensuring compliance not only safeguards your organization from legal and financial consequences, but it also fosters trust with your customers. And this is where Zerto steps in. We're here to help make these stringent SLAs a whole lot easier. With Zerto CDP, you're not only enhancing your data protection strategy, you're also fortifying your compliance efforts. And so, we briefly touched on the challenges when it comes to cloud, the relationship between the service providers and customers, compliance, which really alludes to having a plan in place when it comes to security, or a playbook, if you will, as I'm just trying to keep up with my sports references. But it's important really to have that document in place, whether it's a ransomware attack or natural disaster like a tornado taking out a data center, or someone mistakenly deletes some important files. This plan is to help mitigate risk, and that's essentially what security is all about. And here I have, 4 steps to try to access your security plan. The first one being identify. Security follows that similar adage of those that fail to prepare, prepare to fail, like my Texans. I'm only kidding about that, kind of. But anyway, sore spot. Oftentimes, when teams are scouting out their opponents to regularly build a game plan for success, businesses should really take that same approach and look inward, because you really don't know what you don't know. I think some of the key obstacles that business faces the risk or is the face of is the lack of awareness and understanding of resources, system complexities. And all that hinders progress to really be resilient. And with that, not having that important, clear view of the gaps you have, you're only setting yourself up for failure. Now, step 2, protect. One should always assume a breach mindset, and that's essentially meaning that a breach, you're thinking in a way as if the breach has already occurred or is going to happen in a matter of time. And I think nowadays we can all agree that cyber attacks is not a question of if, but when. Now, there are many ways you can approach this. I like to err on the side of, employee awareness is one, having the tools in place, and kind of, you're essentially trying to build up your defense from inward out. When I think of employee training, I think of they're the first line defense. You're trying to create a human firewall. However, that's just really one aspect of protection. There's identity management, authentication, access control, data backup, recovery, or having that recovery system in place, like the 3211 backup rule, which is the 3 copies of your data, 2 different storage medias, 1 copy offsite, and 1 copy air gap, which is something that Zerto can easily facilitate. Now, step 3 is detect, which is just essentially, having tools in place, for before and after the incident occurs, like a SIEM, XDR, SOAR, and even having a backup or disaster recovery, ransomware detection, which is something that we launched with the release of Zerto 10. And step 4, respond. And hopefully at this point, you kind of have a well-defined plan to contain, recover from an incident quickly, and return to business as usual. And at this point, this truly is a full cycle. As you learn from your experiences, you kind of optimize, see the gaps in your security, and kind of reiterate these same 4 steps again and again and again. And so, Zerto really is that winning play that can plug in seamlessly with your cloud security plan. We're meeting these challenges that I mentioned earlier head on with laser focus in these 3 key use cases: ransomware resilience, disaster recovery, and multi-cloud mobility. We're focused to ensure that all our customers can achieve continuous protection from any app, any cloud, any threat. And all of this is based on the foundation of continuous data protection, or CDP for short, space that Zerto has pioneered and has been a market leader for over a decade. But what really makes Zerto stand out for our competition really boils down to these four key differentiators: true continuous data protection, orchestration and automation, multi-cloud ability, and simplicity at scale. But for the purpose of this session, I'm really going to be focusing on CDP and multi-cloud ability. Now, part of what makes CDP with Zerto so powerful is the unique journaling capabilities. The Zerto journal tracks every single change in your application server and logs these as checkpoints from every 5 to 10 seconds. And this change data is stored for up to 30 days with unmatched granularity when it comes to recovery. So whenever needed, you can simply rewind to an old check and easily recover to that exact same point. It's like you're watching a football game on a DVR and you might have missed a play. You want to go, oh, let me go back 5 seconds. So for example, if you're hit with a ransomware attack at 10 a.m., it's very easy to roll back to 9:59 and 55 seconds and completely mitigate that infection. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather lose 5 seconds than say 24 hours. Which really brings me to my next point. Earlier this year, we launched Zerto 10, and with that came real-time encryption detection. We're not waiting for the point of backup to be complete to start coming over three things. Unfortunately, the backup process introduced by some of our competition has exceedingly long recovery times and RTL stretching for days, and it's not acceptable when it comes to a ransomware attack. What we're doing, we're monitoring as encryption happens, and we're detecting within seconds, allowing teams to take action. So for that first moment of impact, you'll get an alert, and administrators can assess if that's a false positive, if there's something really going on here. And because it's on a VPG basis, you're going to be able to identify that so-called blast radius easily as well. Now, another key component of how we're able to achieve these low RPOs and RTOs is the way that we treat the applications themselves. Traditional data protection treats these workloads, these applications as disparate systems that don't talk to the internet, but we know that isn't the case. With Zerto, on the other hand, we treat these, we're tackling this challenge when it comes to recovering complex applications by protecting your applications and your workloads as a cohesive logical entity of what we call virtual protection groups, or VPG for short. The way that way you're able to avoid those inconsistent recoveries of those multi-VM applications, which each VM being restored at different points of time, extending that recovery process. Now, when we talk to customers about all the advantages such as CDP, often at times the follow-up question is where can they achieve this? And oftentimes, they're running disparate systems, multi-cloud environments where continuous availability is critical for their applications. And that's where Zerto shines by truly unlocking that true hybrid cloud resilience. Some customers focus solely on private cloud, but others might be more engaged with MSPs, while others are leveraging the public cloud. Regardless of where you are on your cloud journey, Zerto can help you minimize the data loss and downtime. It can help you move to and from and in between clouds. For example, DR to the cloud is one way to have a great way to get an offsite target. Maybe you're trying to decide between moving from AWS to Azure, or even to migrate out of cloud and back to on-prem. We give you the freedom of choice to choose which platform works best for you. And it's important to note that we're at that hypervisor level, so we're completely storage agnostic. So imagine what you can achieve if you can be in multiple places at once. Think about the downtime that you could save. Though we can't exist everywhere at once, your business applications can. With Zerto's one-to-many replication functionality, you can ensure consistent uptime against any threat because of the added layers of data protection, recoverability, and redundancy. The top So right here that I have here is these top use cases for one to many as follows: the ability to replicate locally, which is the local disaster recovery, replicating and failing over to multiple targets or remote sites, which we have here is that multi-site disaster recovery, and being able to move from virtual instance to a warm site is the what's shown here is the protection during migration example. So now I've talked quite a bit about how great Zerto is and what it can do for you, but let's take a look at our solution in action. Here we have Spirit Airlines, one of our many customers, utilizing Zerto prior to a hurricane to proactively migrate all their mission critical applications, which took less than 3 hours. Yeah, less than 3 hours for a major airline, a publicly traded company, to migrate all their critical applications. And what's more important, they did this all with zero errors and significantly minimized the risk of being down, which could have cost them up to $500,000 per hour. And so I'm getting close to the end here, so I wanted to leave you with this. Some of the key takeaways when you're thinking about Zerto for your cloud infrastructure. And with Zerto, you can resume operations at scale within minutes. You're really able to recover to a state uh, state right before an attack. So within, like I said, those 5 to 10 second checkpoints. And really, with Zerto, we have that freedom of the choice, the freedom to choose, with Zerto being a truly storage agnostic solution. So really enhancing that true mobility, whether you're going to be on-prem or AWS, Azure, or a different cloud service model. I just really want to reiterate, Zerto is the gold standard when it comes to performance. We're proven, battle tested, and for that reason, companies trust us to handle their most critical business applications. So you've heard a lot about the benefits that Zerto has to offer. I would encourage you to explore Zerto, get a hands on it for yourself. We're happy to do a personalized demo. You can go through some of our self-paced on-demand learnings and labs, and you can try to deploy it for yourself with our Zerto free trial in one of your own data centers. And lastly, I would encourage you to reach out to some of our current customers or read some of the reviews on our review sites like PeerSpot or Gartner. You'll hear exactly from your peers how Zerto has changed their business. Well, that concludes the end of my talk, and I'm ready for Q&A.
All right, perfect. Well, definitely let's get into some Q&A, but first I do want to say a big thank you for that presentation, Martin, and I want to point out to everyone out in the audience that we have a poll question up on the screen here, and what we're wondering is what additional information you would like to get about the Zerto solution. So Martin just gave us a lot of great info. Obviously, there's a lot more left to cover, and again, this is that easy button, right? Your future self is going to thank you. Just click on it now, and then you don't even have to think about it, and Zerto's going to send you all the information that you're looking for. Well, you're clicking on that poll there, Martin and I are going to dig into some questions. You ready for that, Martin?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, I want to start with this one because this is a funny one. We got a question in, and you know that thing that everyone says all the time, it's not if, it's when. So a question from the audience was, do you actually think, is this just rhetoric now? We were talking earlier about buzzwords and things we just sort of say. Is every company of any size going to get hit with a cyber attack? Is that a when, not if?
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. It's not when, not if, because, you think of, SMBs and mid-size, they're typically, the low-hanging fruit. So they don't typically have that, all those security features that you would expect to go against. So, if I was a hacker, I would try to focus, on this little small companies because yeah, the payout might not be as big, but you might have typically more success. But on the flip side, if the ransomware, that hacker that thinks they can crack those larger enterprises, they're kind of viewed as that that holy grail, and so the opportunity to make a bigger buck is higher.
Hmm. Okay, question here. Is Zerto going to actually back up, restore, and protect mobile devices?
Mobile device. I'm not. I know my engineer on the line, Anthony. Do you know anything about that? Uh, Let's see. Let's see.
I
Mobile
like this.
device.
This was like the phone a friend.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Well, maybe what we can do is respond to that in live
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll get back. So Laura, hang tight. We'll get back to you on that one. Can you talk to us about the licensing options for Zerto and especially for first-time customers?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, we try to keep it pretty simple. We're on a per VM cost basis. And with Zerto, for our VM license, we have two options. Our Enterprise Cloud Edition, which unlocks everything that I talked about, the disaster recovery, the journal, the replication. And then there's the migration license, which is a time limited license enabling migrations for a fixed set of months.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Easy answer. Talk to us a little bit about, we had some questions coming in for organizations that are in the process of planning for disaster recovery. So is Zerto going to be able to fit in with disaster recovery planning? And is it an enhancement? Where would you say that fits in?
Yeah, so for that one, I would say, Zerto plays a critical role in your disaster recovery planning because it checks a lot of boxes. We do offer, I know I didn't get to show you the dashboard, but, we do offer that single pane of gas so you can see how your workloads are being protected. You can see, how your VPGs are doing. You can see your RPO, and I know I briefly discussed, continuous data protection, mobility, but one thing I really didn't touch on is the orchestration and automation engine, which allows for non-disrupted testing. So, think when you're trying to do testing, a migration, or a failover to a remote site, you're able to do this in a sandbox environment before actually committing that failover. And so that's just building that confidence so you know that when you do that, the solution is going to work. And also, it's really easy to pull a report just to show proof of performance. And in that process, we keep that simple as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, some great information. And I think we're going to have to leave it there, even though we have a ton of questions coming in. So it sounds like we've got you and Anthony sticking around on live chat for a little bit. So we will be able to get back to some of these questions that we're not going to have time to get to. But before you leave us, Martin, I do want to ask, for someone out there that is really excited and wants to jump in with Zerto, what do you recommend as their first step to getting started?
The first step to getting started is, we have a little walkthrough demo that you can do, so you can take the step-by-step basis on how to deploy Zerto, how Zerto works, just to learn a little bit more about the dashboard. And if you want, you can always reach out to one of our account execs. They can give you a walkthrough too if you don't want to take the time to do it yourself. Happy to explain all the bits and pieces when it comes to Zerto.
Awesome. I love that. Well, and I can definitely say the Zerto crew, you guys have a great team, always great answers, great conversations. So today was certainly no exception. Martin, I really appreciate you being here. And I especially appreciate, as a Wisconsin girl myself, I appreciate all the football references. So you're very, very on season for that. And we'll just have to have you keep coming back throughout the season so we can talk about Zerto and football as we go.
Definitely.
All right, Martin. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and to everyone out there who's clicking on that poll to get some further information from Zerto, keep those answers coming in. We definitely want to hear from you on that. Any questions that we're not getting to, again, we're going to come back to those over live chat. We've got Anthony, we've got Martin here answering questions, so you will get some answers back, and we'll also follow up with anyone else on via email. So you'll get some answers, and feel free to send those questions in throughout the day today. While you're doing that, I will also remind you to head over to the handouts tab if you haven't already clicked around and explored the takeaway that you've got from Zerto. There's a really great sort of overview on the Zerto solution. So actually, a lot of those questions that were coming in, you can get sort of a base level answer in that handout there. So click on that Zerto handout. Make sure you've got that downloaded. Save that for later. You're going to want to dig in a little bit more. But for now, we've got some additional excitement for all of you, and that is another prize giveaway. So we have a $300 Amazon gift card. A quick reminder, as always, that you do need to be here and present at the summit. I noticed I did not say alert if you're feeling feeling the morning phase a little bit today, take a little break while I'm announcing the prize winner. Go get a cup of coffee and come back, because you're not going to want to miss any of our upcoming sessions. Boy, all of these speakers today have just been on fire. My brain is buzzing already. All right, well, enough stalling, enough drum rolling. Our next winner of a $300 Amazon gift card is Matt Hockey of Georgia, or Hockey of Georgia. Matt Hockey of Georgia, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. Congratulations to you. Now, we will follow up about claiming that prize after we wrap, and there are lots more chances to win, folks. So if you're feeling disappointed, don't send those frowny faces yet. It is coming. We have more prizes. Stay tuned for that. And of course, we have that best question gift card coming at you from every session. All right, well, speaking of every session, let's get to our next one. How's that for a hot segue? As you can see, we have an all-star cast lined up for you next. The dynamic duo is back again, and that is, of course, John Spiegel, Director of Network Transformation, Field CTO, and Jay Tilson, Director of Strategy, Field CTO at Axis Security. These guys are returning veterans of the summit, and as you know from seeing them in the past, you are definitely in for a great presentation. So, John and Jay, without any further ado, I will hand the mic on over to you. Take it away, team.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today. In this session, we're going to talk about securing access to your public, private, and hybrid cloud environments. Before we get started, let me just introduce you to your host for today. My name is Jay Tilson, and I am joined by my colleague and my friend, Mr. John Spiegel. Together, John and I have over 50 years of enterprise experience running large infrastructure and security teams. We spent the bulk of our careers sitting in your chairs and have experienced the same daily challenges as you. Not just those technical challenges, but the cultural, budget and resource challenges also. Recently, we left our roles in the enterprise space and moved to a company called Axis Security, which is now part of the wider HP Aruba networking family. We made this move because we believe both networking and security are marred in complexity. We both feel that stitching together solutions that worked in the early 2000s no longer works in this new world of the hybrid workforce. We found that this approach created more challenges, and when deployed, it looked like a game of mousetrap. We both believe that there are better ways of doing things.
Thank you, Jay, for that introduction. So let's get started. I don't think it would come as a surprise to anyone that the pandemic was an accelerant to cloud adoption. A recent study showed that 94% of companies are using some form of cloud services. The events of 2020 also had another impact. Employees left the safe spaces of the office and went to their homes. As a result, the center of gravity for applications had to change. Two significant challenges companies are facing with in the decade of the 2020s. It's the rise of distributed applications and now this distributed workforce. And critically, how do you secure them? The solution? Adopt a hybrid cloud strategy, which 9 out of 10 companies are doing. But the impact is, if you consider how to secure both cloud and the on-prem applications, while also considering how to secure again those remote employees as well as third parties, it's a big challenge for the modern business.
93% of businesses say that cloud security is their number one concern and that the in-between matters just as much as the destination. So let's look at how most users are accessing cloud-based applications and services today. They connect over the internet back into a data center using some form of legacy VPN. And then they go via a dedicated site-to-site VPN connection into the cloud services. And then the traffic is sent back to the data center before it goes back to the user. As we all know, backhauling to data center means that not only do we hinder the user experience significantly, but also we lose a lot of benefits of the cloud. In this example, you also have very little visibility into what the user is connecting to and from what device. What we find that there's a much better way of providing a cleaner experience when providing access to applications. We find that the security aspect of having visibility into what the users are accessing, whether they are an employee or a third party, whether they're connecting from a BYO device or a managed device, and what actions they are performing, like downloading or uploading files, looking at cloud applications or browsing the internet are all super critical to you when you think about the whole end-to-end path. The real goal here is to look at how do we start to adapt to a world that is shifting towards cloud and mobility and move away from the reliance on networks where we were reliant on a centralized gateway and where the hub and spoke architecture was leveraged to help connect user traffic to business services. As we have shown, many of the applications that users now rely on to do their jobs are cloud-based in some form, so we need to talk about the security controls that we currently have in place. The inline capabilities that sit between the user and the application are now even more critical. When an individual connects to an application, it should not matter if it's in a data center or the public cloud. The pathway has to be incredibly fast. This is the basis for how we should start to think about transforming security away from those data center based appliances to more distributed cloud-based technologies. And this is the basis for what Gartner is calling Security Service Edge, or SSE.
So let's break down SSE. SSE is part of a wider framework known as SASE. This term was coined by the analyst firm Gartner in 2019. The goal was to bring together network and security to solve the challenges of distributed applications and a growing remote workforce. The SASE architecture is delivered in two technology stacks. On one side, you have WAN edge services. This could include SD-WAN, WAN optimization, and SaaS acceleration. On the other side, security services like CASB, ZTNA, DLP, and Firewall as a Service. Statistics are now showing that IT and security teams are turning to both SASE and SSE to simplify their network and security stacks through vendor consolidation. In a report released by Gartner in 2022, it showed that 92% of enterprises indicated that they are pursuing vendor consolidation to simplify these solutions. 41.5% of organizations say they will adopt SASE by the end of this year, and 75% said they are pursuing SASE in the next year or so. So let's take a deeper look at SSE. Recently, Axis Security, in partnership with the Cybersecurity Insiders, conducted the first ever research on SSE adoption. We wanted to understand where people were on their journey. The report has some very good insights, and it's worth a read, but for this presentation, I'm going to pull a few key takeaways. First, the report shows that both elements of SASE, that being WAN Edge and SSE, are on the rise, which backs up the need for change that we have discussed earlier in this presentation. Secondly, I think it's interesting to note that SSE is seen as a strategic initiative to secure the workforce, with 39% of the respondents viewing it as the most important part of their zero trust strategy. This is over other technologies like identity or endpoint security. And lastly, I think it's important to note that as companies look to implement SASE, 67% plan to start implementing their SASE strategy with SSE versus WAN Edge services.
So now let's look a little at the Axis Atmos SSE platform. The platform was designed on day one to bring networking security together. It's really all about harmonizing what in the past was a symphony that played as individuals versus as a team. In the past, the enterprise would select one vendor for networking, one for security, one for DLP, one for the WAN, and one for cloud security controls. And as we all know and have discussed, this leads to operational complexity, high cost, and ultimately poor security design. Axis, on the other hand, starts with a completely clean slate. It begins with this concept that we call adaptive trust. Instead of placing the employee, the third party, and their device directly on the network, Axis starts with a series of checks to verify and identify the user, plus the device and the state of their machine. Axis balances this with a request for the application and data, and if the calculation does not add up, then the employee is just not granted access. Building on this concept of adaptive trust, Access provides global reach with over 700 edges for services like SWIG, CASB and ZTNA. It brings together what were previously individual point product solutions into a single integrated platform delivered via the public cloud. This enables secure access for remote users, office workers, and those critical third-party and contractor resources. So let's break down some of the SSE elements and talk about how we have implemented them within Atmos. As you dive deeper into the SSE solutions, you will find that each solution emphasizes one of these technology areas. It could be secure web gateway, as that company started there, or a cloud access security broker, as that was the target market that they were looking to be competitive in. However, we have a different approach. We believe the future is about transitioning to a new security strategy based completely on zero trust. Only provide access to the resources required to perform the function, nothing more and nothing less, and then vigilantly check for indicators of change in a negative manner. We built our platform to deliver zero trust network access. The strategy is at the center of everything we do. It is a solid foundation that we built our technology on, and we believe that the future is about delivering secure access for applications, whether they are in the cloud or whether they are in private data centers. Services must be delivered the same no matter the location, with security checks such as MFA and device posture matched with the request for data, all based on a business policy. We believe we have solved this in an elegant manner for both your employees and those difficult third-party and contractors. Building on the solid foundation of ZTNA, we added features to our platform such as Secure Web Gateway. Secure Web Gateway is fundamental to securing your employees from internet-based threats. Or maybe your company is leveraging SaaS assets like Salesforce or Office 365. If so, utilizing our Cloud Access Security Broker or CASB is important. Secure your SaaS solutions with an easy-to-read business-based policy. Or maybe you want to understand the user experience. How is an application performing on your network? If so, our digital experience monitoring or DEM solution is available. Quickly uncover where an application issue is. Is it the network, is it the device, or is it the application? DEM has you covered for this. Please note that all these features are configured from one single UI sat on one single data lake. So let's look a little bit on how Access Atmos works. As previously stated, the Atmos platform includes all of the core functions of SSE. This means that access can be granted to the internet, SaaS applications, the public cloud, or applications hosted in your data center, all from our single UI. First, the user's request access. Note that this can be with or without an agent so that you can cover those difficult third-party and contractor use cases if an agent cannot be installed. Next, the platform auto-mediates the request for access at scale. Unlike with legacy VPNs, there are no pass-through connections. Users do not get an IP address on the network and cannot go wherever they want whenever they want. The system will then attempt to prompt for MFA, and then it will automatically verify against your defined access policy. This is based on user, device, and application context to prevent any unauthorized access. Once everything balances, it then brokers a smart and surgical connection that helps minimize attack surface and prevent lateral movement. As previously mentioned, we have a single data lake for all of these services, which allows full visibility for all traffic. Please note that the platform continuously inspects the posture of devices and users, and if anything changes, access is adapted or severed within 60 seconds. This all adds up to an increased protection against bad guys, while significantly reducing cost and complexity, but most importantly, securing and empowering your remote workforce. So I can hear you asking, what are the benefits of SSE? Firstly, SSE increases your security posture by providing zero trust access to all services and applications. You get to eliminate your attack surface and reduce your exposure. You also get to enforce least privilege access to all applications and services, including private applications, SaaS applications, and the internet. This will help you protect your business against ransomware and data loss. Secondly, you get to deliver the best experience possible for your end users and IT administrators. End users receive quick, seamless access to applications and services and data every time because of our intelligent smart routing across our over 1,000 edge locations. Also, IT admins can control access centrally and granularly, making it easy to secure your business from a holistic perspective. Lastly, you get to optimize your business with one solution for all your secure access needs. You get to simplify and unify network and security functions and minimize complexity by reducing the number of point product solutions you have in play. Additionally, you save money by reducing resilience on application-based security solutions, and you can effortlessly scale with our cloud-based platform.
At Access Security, customers are key. Their challenges are similar to yours. Take, for instance, the city of San Jose. Their challenge was how to create a successful hybrid workforce. Like many in the post-pandemic world, they embraced remote work, but also knew the power of creating a strong work culture. The city adopted a 3-day remote, 2-day in the office approach. This blend allowed them to provide the best of both worlds. But if you don't have an application delivery mechanism to support it, worker productivity declines. And after conducting an extensive search, the city of San Jose adopted Access Atmos as their platform. Why? Simplicity, as well as the ability to support challenging zero-trust protocols like voice over IP, ICMP, and server-initiated protocols that allow patching of remote systems while maintaining a strong security posture. For them, the days of VPN are gone. Or it could be like another customer, Procter & Gamble. Their challenge was different: third-party access. Being one of the largest multinationals out there, their base of contractors is high. Their need was how to secure them while maintaining their intellectual property. In the past, that meant sending out thousands and thousands of laptops. The turn time to onboard a contractor was high, along with the cost. By moving to Access, Procter & Gamble was able to leverage our agentless approach. This meant that contractors could now leverage their own devices. As a result, $10 million saved, and time to value went from 24 days to 24 hours. Return on investment? Sub 1 month. That's the power of Access. And lastly, VisionWorks. You may have seen them. They're a national optical chain. Their challenge was legacy hardware. Like many companies, they are sending network traffic back to their data center for security treatments. The result? This hairpinning of traffic slows their business down and was expensive from a hardware perspective. By moving to Access, they could reduce their hardware investment, optimize their network flows, and secure their clinics. The return on investment was quick and was realized as the deployment of the solution took less than a week. That's 700 stores in a matter of days. Traffic optimized with zero-trust security postures. And visibility provided by Access's Atmos digital experience tool. Wins all around.
So where do you go from here? I would like to make it clear that making the move to SASE and SSE is a journey and that we're here to support you. Where you start this journey is really up to you. Many of our customers have started their journeys in different places, as it's all about solving your critical business challenges. Maybe your need is to connect your branch or manufacturing or retail location to improve connectivity and security. And if so, start with Aruba's best-in-class SD-WAN solution, Edge Connect. Or maybe your challenge is more about securing your remote workforce or those difficult third-party contractors. And if so, start with our SSE platform, now powered by HPE. If you choose SSE as your first step, then we really do recommend you start with ZTNA. It's the foundation and it's going to give you those quick wins and help you see immediate value. The idea really is to standardize connectivity from a private application perspective, and then you can start to layer on additional SSE capabilities such as the Secure Web Gateway. It's worth noting again that the ZTNA product and the SWIG product are integrated. They are from the same code base. They're not a separate UI. It's just a new rule in a policy, and that's it. And once you've done that, you can standardize access for all your internal and external applications, as well as your internet access. Then you can add on our CASB feature for SaaS security. As I've mentioned, our CASB is a feature and not a separate product. Next, take the same approach you took for user application perspective and apply it to your workloads. You can then handle that east-west traffic as well from a segmentation perspective. One of our customers' biggest challenges that they have to deal with all the time is speed. Many are trying to decide, do we have a different vendor for CASB, a different vendor for SWIG, a different vendor for ZTNA, and then one for SIEM, etc. As I've mentioned, our push has always been to think about consolidation. There is no God platform out there, but you want to start standardizing some of those elements of SSE. So that's ZTNA, SWIG, and CASB elements into one single solution. And our platform started with ZTNA, but we also include those other core elements of SSE. This helps our customers minimize their management complexities that come with having many different point products. Finally, then bring it all together. Transform your branch or retail locations. Unburden yourself from legacy connectivity that placed a speed bump in the way. Make the move to SD-WAN with Edge Connect. This will then help you lower costs, give you higher bandwidth and increase business and agility and lower operational costs. Finally, to complete the journey, why not think about adding on ClearPass? Dynamically segment your network and provide protection for those vulnerable IoT assets.
We'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy day and joining us today on this webinar. We hope you found this session useful. If you'd like to discuss what you've heard today further, please reach out and scan the QR code or contact us directly. Again, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you both, John and Jay, for that wonderful presentation. So much good information coming our way. And John, I know we're going to dig into some audience questions here, but before we do, I do want to point out that we've got that poll up on the screen for all of you. What additional information do you want to get about access security? You've heard me say this a bunch of times today, so I won't remind you that your future self will thank you, but it's true. And it's going to just make your day a little bit easier. So click on the poll. You'll get exactly the info that you need from access security. This is a great way to make sure that you can follow up on all the info that we just got from Jay and John. So go ahead and get that rolling. While you're doing that, John and I are going to explore some of these questions. John, are you ready?
Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's do it. Okay. I'm going to start with this one. It's a nice long storytelling question. So can you provide an in-depth explanation of how Access Security's platform will address the challenges of secure remote access and application access control, particularly in the context of today's evolving threat landscape, and especially with the increasing complexity of modern IT environments? Great question. What do you got for us, John?
Can you give me another 20 minutes?
Yes, you can have a full other webinar just on this. Yeah.
Yeah, to keep it succinct, I'd love to go, and give a lengthy explanation. But I think the critical thing is the SSE model differs from some of our previous architectural models in terms of security. The intent is really, because we have distributed workforce, distributed applications, we've got to find a way to get in line between that user request, that request for a resource and application, and where that is. So SSE does that by points of presence. It basically brokers that communication between the user and the resource. That allows us to get in line. It also allows us to not place a user or a device directly on a network, because that's where we get into problems. Once we do that, we open ourselves to a lot of different attacks, lateral movements possible. Your attack surface greatly increases. So moving to this SSE model simplifies a lot of those challenges. It also reduces your technology landscape as well. You don't have to have a point product for remote access or SSL decryption or IPS or a firewall or so on and so forth. It's really presented as one platform. So therefore you simplify things, and as well you get visibility. because if you don't have visibility, it's very difficult to provide security. So that's my succinct answer.
Succinct answer on obviously a much bigger conversation and things that are really top of mind for people these days. I know, but I appreciate you getting through that quickly. I'm going to try to get to one more question. So looking at access security, how can you help secure both ingress and egress traffic from private clouds like AWS?
Oh, that's a great question. We treat AWS, and it really depends on what kind of instance it is, whether it's PaaS or IaaS, or how you are architecting or leveraging AWS or similar clouds. If it's an IaaS instance or you have a landing zone, we can drop what we call a connector in there. Basically, it's a small, lightweight piece of software that creates an outbound connection to our cloud and brokers that communication between the user requesting a resource, whatever resource that may be within, say, AWS. So that's that we really focus in on user device access to a resource. If you're looking at cloud to cloud resources or data center to cloud resources, my recommendation is to take a look at our Silver Peak technology. So that's a part of our Aruba family. They provide a very nice and easy way to manage cloud-to-cloud communications, as well as on-prem to cloud, very similar to what you would see with a AWS Express, or similar what you would get from Azure Express as well, where you have a dedicated connection, but they can do it in a very much easier, much more cost-effective, and much more secure way. So when you bring those two technologies together, Silver Peak and Access, you get a very strong solution for protecting and also securing and providing transport in and out of your cloud instances. So that would be my recommendation. Look at Access Security and Silver Peak and bring them together. And if you do that, you're starting your path down to this other technology called, or framework called, SASE.
Oh, great answer. You're giving us a lot of information in very compact bits and bytes here today, John, so I really appreciate that. And I know
Good
that
questions.
Yeah, they're great questions. I know we could dig in a lot more to all of these, and there's a lot of questions that we're not going to get to. We will leave them in live chat, and then certainly I know your team always follows up in email as well, so everyone will get answers. Do keep those questions coming in. But before I actually wrap this up and send you on your way, John, what is the first step to getting started with access security for anyone out there that's ready to jump in?
Oh gosh, really, it's getting knowledgeable about it in the space, starting to look at how you deliver your applications, and rethinking and moving away from the old technologies of the 90s. VPN, it's a relic of the 90s. MPLS, a relic of the 90s. Firewalls, a relic of the 90s. It's 2023. Start to look at SSE and reach out to us. We're more than happy to have a conversation and help you on your journey.
Ooh, I love that mindset shift. I think that was probably scary for some people to hear, and also really exciting for some people to hear. So visit the website, demos, calls, case studies, all of the above available for the folks out there on your website. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great place to start. And, feel free to reach out to myself, Jay. We're always happy to engage with people looking to transition to something new and moving on to this SSE journey.
Okay, awesome. Well, John, it's been inspiring to talk to you as always. I appreciate you and Jay giving us a great presentation, and thank you for sticking around for some Q&A. Always a pleasure to chat with you guys.
Likewise. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
All right. And to everyone out there who's clicked on the poll, keep those answers coming in, and I see a few of you are doing this. You're typing into the chat saying, hey, I'd like this. I'd like pricing details. I'd like case studies, all of these things. That's fine too. However you reach out, we just want to make sure that we get that to Access so that you can get the responses back that you are looking for. So thanks for those polls. Thanks for those questions coming in. Be sure that you visited the handouts tab. Make sure you click on that resource link there for you from Access Security. All of these these handouts, again, just a great way to make sure that you are jogging your memory after we wrap up here, because there's so much info and it's all going to kind of glom in there to start, and then you're going to lose some of it. So there is a great resource covering Atmos at a glance for you from Access Security. Make sure you've got that downloaded, save that on your computer, and then you're going to want to access that, access the access a little bit later today. So make sure you've got that saved for you. All right, while you're doing all of that, I am going to go ahead and give away another prize. Venkat, I agree. I see your post. This is so interesting. 100% agree. What a day it's been. We've covered a lot, and there is still more to come. But quick break for a prize giveaway. We're going to do a gift card, and we'll do three of those Kindle Scribes. So a $300 Amazon gift card going to someone here and present at the summit, and that is Rodrigo Agia of Georgia. Rodrigo Agia of Georgia, you have won a $300 Amazon gift card. And our 3 Kindle Scribes going to Carrie Doherty of Massachusetts, Petra Leonard of New Jersey, and Mark Giraud of California. Oh, there's a familiar name. Congrats, Mark. Carrie Doherty, Massachusetts, Petra Leonard of New Jersey, and Mark Giraud of California. Congratulations to all 3 of you, and to Rodrigo on your gift card. Again, we will follow up with all of you. Mark just said pick me. Mark, I did. I just picked you. Well, I didn't pick anything. The automatic generator picked you. Congrats. Okay, so some excited winners out there today. All right, well, don't forget there's still another chance to win, and there's that best question gift card coming at you from each one of our sessions. So stay tuned for that. Mark says first win. Congrats, Mark. So excited. I love that. I love seeing the enthusiasm and Bonnie's giving you a high five. We have such a great community out here. You guys are all winners in my book. I know that doesn't help when you really want the Kindle Scribe, but just here, take that with all my love. All right, well, folks, we're going to keep things moving along and get into our very last session of the summit today. I can't believe that we are here already, but it is time. Now, don't worry, though, because, boy, are we wrapping up on a high note. We are going to have our grand finale conversation with TierPoint. So we will be chatting next with Derek Townsend, Cloud Solutions Architect from TierPoint. Derek, thank you so much for being here to bring us on home at the summit today. So excited to hear what you've got in store for us. So I'm going to step back and hand things on over to you. Take it away, Derek.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today. My name is Derek Townsend, and I'm a Cloud Solutions Architect with TierPoint. I am here to discuss with you achieving security best practices in public cloud, chiefly Azure and Amazon Web Services. All right, a little bit about myself. I've been in IT for over 20 years. I've been an architect for 8 years, and I've been dealing primarily with AWS and Azure. This has been around designing solutions for customers related to IaaS and PaaS services. And we're ready to begin. Thank you. I would like to now discuss the organization that I am with. I work for a company called TierPoint, and we are a data center services provider. We have 43 data centers across the United States, but in addition to that, we also provide professional and managed services for both AWS and Azure environments. The first topic I would like to discuss is the public cloud shared responsibility model. This model is a framework that outlines the security obligations of both the public cloud provider, in this case Amazon Web Services, and their customers. In this model, AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud, meaning they handle the infrastructure, hardware, software, and networking components. On the other hand, customers are responsible for security in the cloud, which includes safeguarding their data, applications, and configurations. This approach allows both parties to focus on what they do best while still ensuring a comprehensive security environment. AWS provides tools and services to help customers meet their security responsibilities. One of the key components of any environment, but in particular public cloud, is identity and access management, which includes strengthening authentication and managing access effectively. It is important to utilize strong authentication mechanisms. It is important also to use complex passwords and to regularly update security certificates. When able, it benefits an organization to utilize SAML or OAuth authentication as well. Role-based access control is a feature of public cloud environments, and it's important to define user roles carefully and to assign minimum necessary permissions for a user to perform their job. As a result of this, it is also important to regularly audit role assignments. One of the key features of public cloud environments is multi-factor authentication. It's important to always enable multi-factor authentication for any administrative account, and also to encourage or enforce MFA for all of your users. When necessary, you can utilize a hardware-based token. I would say the key takeaways of these IAM features and functionalities is that strong authentication and fine-grained permissions are essential for robust cloud security, and that MFA significantly enhances user authentication and should be standard practice. I'd like to touch on the technologies that are involved in both AWS and Azure also for managing identity and access management. The name in Amazon is pretty straightforward. The service itself is called AWS IAM. It helps to control access to any resource in AWS and allows for one to manage users, groups, and permissions within one or more AWS accounts. It also provides features such as MFA, which we had mentioned earlier, identity federation, and access control policies. On the Azure side, we have Azure Active Directory, and this is a cloud-based identity solution created by Microsoft. It has features as well, like multi-factor authentication and single sign-on, and also utilizes role-based access control. It can also integrate an on-premises Active Directory controller with cloud-based applications, and it supports various protocols, including OAuth, SAML, and OpenID. Network isolation and segmentation are crucial in public cloud environments for several reasons. Chief among these are security. By isolating networks, one can limit the attack surface area. If one segment is compromised, the impact can be contained, making it harder for attackers to move laterally across the environment. Regulatory requirements also often mandate that sensitive data is isolated from other types of data, and network segmentation can help achieve this. Smaller segmented networks also are easier to monitor, manage, and troubleshoot. In addition to this, AWS security groups and Azure network security groups serve similar purposes but are part of each of these different cloud ecosystems. Both act as a virtual firewall to control inbound and outbound traffic to network interfaces, VMs, and other resources. Security groups are stateful, meaning that if you allow an incoming request from an IP, the response is automatically allowed regardless of the outbound rules. Security groups typically are associated with elastic network interfaces on the AWS side and can be applied to multiple instances, and they are typically also scoped to a VPC specifically. On the Azure side, these are also stateful security groups, but they will allow you to assign priority to rules. And they come with a set of rules that can be overridden by creating additional rules with higher priority. And these are typically associated with subnets or a network interface and are scoped at the virtual network level. AWS WAF, AWS Shield are both services that protect applications running in AWS. WAF, which is Web Application Firewall, protects those web apps from various attacks by filtering and monitoring HTTP and PS traffic. And they're customizable because they allow you to create custom rules to block, allow, or monitor web requests based on various conditions like IP addresses, HTTP headers, and so on. And they also integrate with other AWS services. AWS Shield itself was designed to protect against distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks, and Shield provides additional security against larger and more sophisticated attacks, in addition to offering a 24/7 DDoS response team at AWS. Azure Sentinel is a cloud-native security information and event management platform that collects data across users, devices, applications, and infrastructure, both on-prem and across multiple cloud providers. It'll use AI and analytics to identify security anomalies and potential threats, and it allows for automated responses to security incidents. These services are essential for enhancing cloud security, offering various levels of protection to meet different organizational needs. I wanted to illustrate here what a sort of typical traffic flow may look like for an application, where we would have a client submit a request to a web server located in this case in Azure. The application gateway would intercept that packet and examine it. The packets passed inspection, the gateway would send those to the backend VM. When that packet hits Azure, a user-defined route in the app gateway would push it to the firewall, at which point the firewall would run security checks on the packets, and if they passed the tests, they would forward those packets to the app VM. The VM responds and sets the destination IP to the app gateway. User-defined routes in the VM subnet redirect those packets to the Azure firewall, at which point the firewall forwards the packets to the app gateway and the gateway answers the client. Encryption is a critical aspect of security in public cloud environments for several reasons, chiefly data privacy, compliance, data integrity, and access control. Encrypting data ensures that even if unauthorized access occurs, the data remains unreadable without a key. Many regulations like GDPR, HIPAA, and PCI require data to be encrypted both at rest and in transit when stored in public cloud environments. Encryption mechanisms can help verify that data has not been tampered with, preserving its integrity. And coupled with proper key management, encryption helps to enforce access controls. Only authorized personnel with the correct decryption keys can access the data. Encryption protects sensitive information from being exposed in shared or multi-tenant cloud environments. And in the event of a data breach, encrypted data is significantly less vulnerable, as it would require additional computational efforts to decrypt. By employing encryption strategies, organizations can significantly enhance the security posture of their data and applications in public cloud environments. Classifying data and sensitive information in public cloud environments is important for several key reasons, security being the chief reason. Knowing which data is sensitive helps in applying appropriate security measures like encryption or access controls to protect that data. In addition to that, we have compliance, which we had mentioned earlier, resource allocation regions. Not all data requires the same level of security. Classification allows you to allocate security resources more effectively, focusing on the most critical data. Access control, classification guides who should and should not have access to particular sets of data, reducing the risk of unauthorized access. And obviously auditing and monitoring. Classified data can be monitored more closely for any unauthorized access or suspicious activities, helping in quicker incident detection and response. Knowing the importance and sensitivity of data helps in making decisions about its storage, retention, and eventual deletion as well. Proper classification of data and sensitive information is foundational for a robust security posture and effective data management in public cloud environments. Aligning public cloud security with regulatory standards involves several steps and best practices. Firstly, it's important to identify applicable regulations that apply to your organization, such as HIPAA or PCI. It's also important to conduct a gap analysis to assess your current security posture against the requirements of the regulatory standards to identify gaps. As we had mentioned in a previous slide, data classification, encryption, and access control also factor in to your overall strategy for aligning public cloud security with a regulatory standard. Documentation is important, obviously, for auditing reasons and maintaining an audit trail. Maintaining detailed audit trails of data access or modification are often required for audits, and conducting periodic security audits and risk assessments ensure ongoing compliance and identify areas for improvement. Lastly, developing and maintaining an incident response plan that aligns with a regulatory requirement or standard is significant and also required for reporting and mitigating security incidents. Many cloud providers offer tools to help maintain compliance. Among these tools are services such as Azure Policy, Azure Blueprints, AWS Artifact, AWS CloudTrail, amongst others. By taking a comprehensive and structured approach, one can effectively align a public cloud with the security measures that apply to their vertical or sector, therefore reducing risk and ensuring legal compliance. Both AWS and Azure offer a wide range of security services designed to help organizations protect their cloud-based assets. On the AWS side, we have IAM, Shield, and WAF, which we've already discussed. In addition to those services, we also have Amazon Guard Duty, which is a threat detection service that continuously monitors for malicious activity. AWS CloudTrail, which logs API calls, providing a history of changes to resources. And Security Hub, which is a centralized view of security alerts and compliance statuses. On the Azure side, we have Azure Key Vault, which stores and manages sensitive information like keys, secrets, and certificates. Security Center, which is a central hub for monitoring and managing the security of resources. Sentinel, which we've previously mentioned. Azure Firewall, also, which we've previously mentioned, which is a stateful firewall service. Azure Policy allows an organization to set requirements and enforce those requirements for any sort of resource that exists within a subscription. And Azure Monitor, which is a collector that analyzes and acts on telemetry data from Azure and on-premises resources. Both AWS and Azure offer comprehensive sets of security services designed to address various aspects of cloud security, from identity and access management to data protection and threat detection. Embedding security into DevOps processes, commonly known as DevSecOps, is particularly crucial in public cloud environments. Here is how an organization can achieve scalable protection. Using infrastructure as code templates to define cloud resource configurations ensures that they are consistently secure by design. Tools like CloudFormation, ARM templates, and Terraform help to achieve this end. Integrating security scanning tools into the CI/CD pipeline to automatically scan code and cloud configurations for vulnerabilities is also important. Services like AWS Code Pipeline with built-in security checks or Azure DevOps with Azure Security Center can help. If you're using containers, ensure that they are scanned for vulnerabilities. Solutions like AWS ECR or Azure Container Registry offer integrated scanning. Automatically validate that the infrastructure that you're creating follows compliance requirements utilizing services such as AWS Config or Azure Policy. It's important also to establish feedback mechanisms between security and DevOps teams to continuously improve security postures. By integrating these practices into DevOps processes, organizations can ensure that security is not a bottleneck, but an enabler of faster and safer software delivery in public cloud environments. Disaster recovery in public cloud environments is critical not just from an availability perspective, but also from a security standpoint. Data protection is a key item as a part of this. In the event of a cyber attack, such as ransomware, data corruption, a robust DR plan can allow organizations to restore from a clean backup, ensuring data integrity and availability. In addition to that, it can be used to mitigate a DDoS attack, provides for quick incident response, and also allows for isolation and investigation in the event of a breach. Compromised systems can be isolated and traffic can be rerouted to DR environments. In addition to that, many regulations mandate that organizations have a DR plan in place to protect sensitive data. Cloud-based DR solutions also offer the flexibility to simulate disaster scenarios, allowing organizations to test their security protocols in a controlled environment without affecting production systems. In essence, while DR is typically associated with business continuity, its importance to security cannot be understated. A well-designed DR plan in a public cloud environment acts as a safety net, ensuring that organizations can swiftly recover from security incidents while minimizing adverse impacts. Security updates and patch management are essential in public cloud environments for several key reasons. Chief among those are vulnerability mitigation and compliance. Software inevitably has vulnerabilities, and regularly updating and patching your cloud services and applications help to close those gaps before they can be exploited. Many regulations like GDPR or HIPAA require up-to-date security measures, which often include regular patching. This helps to reduce the attack surface area. Often outdated software becomes a target for cyber criminals. By applying updates and patches, one minimizes the attack surface. In addition to that, a security breach due to outdated software can significantly damage the reputation of an organization. Keeping systems updated shows a commitment to customer data security. In addition to that, organizations that maintain a robust security posture by staying updated are better positioned to compete in the marketplace where consumers are increasingly concerned about data security. Both AWS and Azure offer their own security update and patch management systems, chiefly AWS Systems Manager and Azure Update Management. Leveraging automation tools can be important as well to schedule and apply the patches. In addition to that, monitoring patching status is crucial to ensuring that all of the affected systems are updated in a timely manner. Wanted to touch briefly on some lessons learned from past security incidents in both AWS and Azure. Some of these items include unsecured AWS S3 buckets. These expose customer data, and that can often lead to issues or hijacking in some cases. The mitigation plan for this is implementing bucket policies and utilizing AWS config for automated compliance checks to ensure that it's meeting the requirements. In addition to that, oftentimes Azure SQL databases can be exposed where they're publicly accessible, have a public endpoint. A mitigation plan for this is to deploy Azure Firewall and configure proper network security groups to limit access to these SQL servers. In addition to that, oftentimes we will see denial of service attacks from other regions on customers within the United States or elsewhere. These manifest themselves in sustained DDoS attacks. We can utilize services such as Azure DDoS protection for network layer security in these events. And finally, for brute force intrusion, oftentimes actors can get unauthorized access through an open SSH port on a virtual machine. It's important to close those ports and implement something like AWS WAF for real-time application layer protection. Thank you all for joining today. We hope you found this presentation helpful. If you would like to speak to someone about your cloud needs, you can reach us at www.tierpoint.com or sales@tierpoint.com. We have also listed our phone number on this slide as well. Thank you again and have a good day.
Thanks, Derek, and same to you. Thank you for that wonderful presentation, and thanks for the well wishes on our days. I think we all got a lot out of that presentation. Definitely a great way to wrap up our summit. And before you head out, make sure you click on the poll that you see up on your screen. What additional information would you like to get about the tier point solution? How can we follow up with you? Derek's giving us a little bit of an intro, and there's a lot more to learn, which means that this is a great time to sort of think ahead. How do you like to learn? Do you like to have a conversation with somebody? Do you like to read a paper? Is it more valuable to have those case studies, maybe if you're making a pitch to your team? So make sure you're clicking on that poll. Let TierPoint know how they can follow up with you. I see some high fives coming in, and I love that. Dave enjoyed the insight. Vinay enjoyed the presentation and all the information. Howard says, bueno, as always. I love that. Just great to see that kind of energy coming in from all of you. I also got a lot out of this presentation, and our whole day together today has just been incredible. Now, keep the good times rolling. Make sure you go over to that handouts tab and get all the handouts from our day today. And you can definitely get the TierPoint handout today from Managed Public Cloud. Sorry, my brain is just folding in half as we reach the end of the day today. Clearly, I need to take a little bit of a breather here. No, it's a fact sheet from TierPoint on the Managed Public Cloud. So it's really going to explore how you can get the most out of your public cloud deployments. This is a great read, and again, a great way to dig into some of the information that Derek just gave us. So be sure you've got that handout and all the handouts that we just heard today. Craig, Neil, thank you for those shout outs as well. Angie, I'm loving this. Great vibes from the entire crew here today. Now, speaking of great vibes, I know you're all waiting for our last prize giveaway, so let's go ahead and give a little bit more information about that. I'm just pulling up our prize winners. So we're going to do a $300 Amazon gift card, and then we are going to do a Surface Pro number 5 coming at you. All right, so a $300 Amazon gift card going to Peter Danchak of California. Peter Danchak of California, if you are here live and present at the summit, you have just won a $300 Amazon gift card. Now, these last three are Microsoft Surface Laptop 5s coming at 3 lucky winners who are also here live and present at the summit. All right, our last 3 winners of the day, Eric Hanley of Utah, Philip Varghese. Oh, I said 3. It's 2. Philip Varghese of New Jersey. I was like, where's my last one? Eric Hanley of Utah and Philip Varghese of New Jersey. You have each won a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5 coming at you. Now, let me read the entire winners list for the entire group here because I know that is always a question. So, gift card going to Jose Burson of Utah. Gift card going to Ramsey Okuma of Nevada. HomePod going to Michael Lynn of Pennsylvania, Brandon Butler of Texas, and Jana Gay of New Jersey. Then a gift card going to Matt Hake of Georgia. A gift card going to Rodrigo Agia of Georgia, and then a Kindle Scribe going to Carrie Doherty of Massachusetts, Petra Leonard of New Jersey, and Mark Giroux of California. Then we have a gift card going to Peter Danchak of California and a Microsoft Surface Pro going to Eric Hanley of Utah, as well as Philip Varghese of New Jersey. Congratulations to all of our winners. We will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap. Now, if you asked a question today, even if we did not get to it in the live session, you are still entered to win that best question gift card. So stay tuned for that. All right, folks. Well, if you are sitting out there on the summit and thinking, boy, this seems like a lot of fun, you're right. It is. It's a good time for all, and that includes and most especially for our speakers. So if you think that you would like to come and tell your organization's story on a summit, on a megacast, on a webinar, on an ecocast, whatever you've got in mind, we got lots of options. So shoot us a message at connect@actualtechmedia.com, and we will definitely get that conversation started. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our day here. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank our wonderful sponsors, the vendors that were here with us today, our speakers from Rubrik, Gigamon, Zerto, Access Security, and TierPoint for really making this summit possible. But most of all, and most especially when we reach the end of these, I want to make sure that I extend a big and special thank you to all of you for attending, for taking time out of your day, for asking some great questions, sending those wonderful positive vibes out. It has been so much fun talking to you all today about security, about cloud platforms, about football, about forward-thinking ideas, thinking big picture, thinking small picture. We really covered it all. And I hope that a lot of you are getting that feeling that this has maybe helped shift some of those feelings. We talked about at the start that the difference between on that balance beam or seesaw of fear through to preparedness, that feeling of, oh, I got this, moving into that sense of preparedness is really about having the right tools. You know, there's a lot to be scared of. There's a lot to be worried about in the world, you know, in a global sense, but certainly in the industry that we're in. And that movement towards that feeling of I got this comes from knowing that you've got the right tools, the right training, and that you've got that plan in place, that you've rehearsed it, practiced it, that you're ready. And all of that starts with conversations like this, staying on top of these innovations, being a part of these conversations as they evolve, and making sure that you are getting the right tools and solutions for your organization. So all of you can feel great that you've taken some great steps today to helping set up your teams, helping set up your organizations to survive and thrive whatever comes next in our days and our weeks and our years here. So speaking of which, if you would like to take another step with us, we'd love to have a conversation with you tomorrow. That's Thursday, September 14th. We have an EcoCast on up-leveling business continuity, ensuring availability of AV, meeting, collaboration, and classroom instructional systems. This is a really interesting concept for a lot of people, especially if you have a distributed workforce and you're dealing with distributed meeting setups. So if this is something you're interested in, come and talk to Jabra with us about this tomorrow. That's Thursday, September 14th, 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Be sure you've got that on your calendar and join us for that EcoCast. All right. Well, Paul, thanks for that shout out as well. Paul says thanks and much appreciated to the hosts and the vendors. I agree. Big high fives to everyone who is here today. I hope that we'll see you all again tomorrow or at a webinar, an EcoCast with Summit again soon. And until that time, I hope you all have an absolutely beautiful end to your day.